Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Kakashi demands Naruto's sword. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. Konoha 6 years after the Kyuubi attack. A young 6-year-old boy wearing an orange jumpsuit with spiky blonde hair, sapphire blue eyes and 3 whisker marks on each cheek, who was no older than 6, was running from what looked like an angry mob chasing him for reasons unknown. They were shouting things like, "Die demon," and "We should have killed him a long time ago." The boy was scared, and was running as fast as his tiny legs could. All the while he was thinking, what did I ever do to deserve this? All I did was accidentally bump into someone, and I even apologized to him. Maybe if I leave the village they will go away. So with this thought, a young Naruto Uzumaki ran towards the gate, and since the guards were goofing off again, the young boy quickly ran past them, but before he could get too far from the gate, he tripped and fell to the ground. Before he could get up, the mob closed in on him, and then the beating began. He was punched, kicked, and the mob pulled things like kunai out and started to stab him. Before Naruto lost consciousness, the last thing he saw was seeing a man pull back his knife, and yell, "Time to die, demon scum." 3 hours later, the mob stopped the beating, and yet young Naruto was still alive. Then 2 Chunin picked Naruto up and went to dispose of his body. The Valley of the End. The Chunin stopped their run and unceremoniously dropped the boy to the ground. They were about to prepare a fire jutsu, when one Chunin's head exploded into 1,000 pieces. The other Chunin turned to see the cause of his death when his head too exploded. The mysterious figure who killed the men saw the bleeding boy. He picked the boy into his arms and fled the scene. Unknown location. Naruto awoke to see a beautiful woman sitting beside his bed. She had raven black hair that was tied into a bun, and black eyes. She wore an expensive red kimono with sakura petals adorning it. "Oh, I see you're awake. Follow with me," she said to him, which he obediently did. As Naruto followed the mysterious woman, he saw the layout of the place. It was huge. So far they covered the length of 2 miles. The place was a freaking labyrinth, and if he didn't follow the woman he would have gotten lost. They went past a cavern that held a pit of very sharp stalagmites on the bottom with multiple skeletons at the bottom as well. A room with a giant Akalanatha statue in the middle of it. A room with the eyes painted on the walls. Various hallways that led to other rooms, until finally they came across huge oak doors. When they went inside, Naruto was awed at the room's interior. It had white marble tiles and walls. Beautiful paintings, marble, stone, and jade statues throughout the room. Naruto saw the woman walk towards a man wrapped completely in bandaged from head to toe, wore a purple yukata with its right sleeve and shoulder draped around his waist. He wore purple gloves, and had an aura of authority. He wore what looked like a skull band on his head with where his black hair stuck out in various places. His eyes were red with ambition, and had a katana next to him. 2 other people stood by the same man. The first stood on his right. He had black hair and black eyes. He wore a brown suit with black loafers, and a tan trench coat parka combination. The second one stood on his left. He had brown hair and eyes, wore a blue kimono with white handguards, and wore his wakizashi on his waist. And was smiling with no emotion, which creeped Naruto out. Then there were 8 other people in the room and stood in 4s like knights. On the right side was a man that looked like a woman. He had black hair, brown eyes, wore a green kimono with a white rope tied around his waist that turned into a gigantic bow behind him. On his back was a single blade scythe with a ball and chain attached at the top. The second one had black hair with a rat tail mustache. He wore a blue yukata with eye symbols decorating the sleeves, sash, and other places, but he wore a cloth over his eyes with the kanji symbol for all-seeing eye. On his back was a green tortoise shell, and in his right hand was a short spear with an iron ball on the end of it. The third one was a very pale man with dark brown hair that slicked back and defied gravity, and pitch-black eyes. He wore a black cape that encased him completely, which made him look like Dracula, and wore a black bandana to cover the bottom half of his face. And the fourth one was a very short man who looked like he was in his late 70s to early 80s. He was bald and had an alien-shaped head, black eyes, and a brown mustache split into 2 sections on each side. He wore a orange yukata and had a cane in his right hand. On the left side was a man wearing a red yukata with black flames licking the bottom and was missing its right sleeve, black cargo pants, black gloves, and black combat boots. He had hazel eyes and had blonde hair that stood straight up, making him look like a broom with a black headband tied around his forehead to support said hair. On his back were 2 katanas and around his waist were another 2 katanas, which made Naruto think the dude had a very bad obsession with swords. The second one was a very fat guy with the kanji symbol for demon on his gut. He was unusually pink and wore a light blue ripped haoi and ripped white shorts. He had black hair that was tied like a pineapple, his eyes were pure white, and was hunched over like a gorilla. And he had a very stupid smile on his face, which made Naruto believe he was an idiot. The third guy was a heavily muscular man wearing a torn-up green haoi with a green sash, with a torn white shirt, and baggy white pants. He wore white medical tape that covered his hands, arms, legs, and feet. He also wore a white bandana to cover his bald head, and Naruto couldn't tell what his eye color was because of the black bags under his eyes, if they were bags at all. And the fourth person was a giant who was at least 10 feet tall. He wore the top layer of red and green samurai armor that included a skeletal-like helmet, chest plate, shoulder pads, white shorts, and greaves. He also wore a green skin-tight right-sleeved sleeve that also went across his chest, and wielded a zanbatsu. As soon as the woman reached the bandaged man, they all turned their attention to Naruto. "Angie, who have you dragged in this time?" the bandaged man asked. "I really don't know, I was just returning from an S-ranked mission, and decided to take a look at the Valley of the End where the Shoden Hokage and Madara Uchiha fought. When I got there I saw 2 leaf chunin about to use a fire jutsu on the boy, so I killed them and took the child here to get healed. But along the way I saw a red energy heal the boy's wounds." "Interesting. Boy, what is your name?" the man asked. "Naruto Uzumaki," Naruto said, making the man flinch a bit. "Do you know who your parents are?" the man asked again. "No, I'm afraid not." Whenever I asked the old man he would change the subject. "Who is this old man you speak of?" "The Sandaime Hokage," Naruto said, making everyone laugh. "Well, you got guts, that's for sure. Listen, your mom was my old teammate, and we made a blood pact to always look out for one another. And it seems now that she has passed on, I guess you're with us now," the man said, shocking everyone. "Lord Shishio, you can't be serious," the short man protested. "Shut it, Saizuchi. I made a promise, and I'll damn well keep it. Besides, think about it, if we train him our goals will become a reality," the man now known as Shishio said. With that said, Naruto's life changed forever. Konoha 7 years later. 2 chunin guards named Katetsu Hagane and Azumo Kamizuki were standing guard, bored as hell. Azumo was wondering why he agreed to toilet paper the Inuzuka compound for fun last night. Sure, a dog peed on his friend's leg, but that wasn't cause for revenge, especially when the entire clan could smell you from a mile away. They were caught before they even started, and as punishment the Hokage was making them stand guard for the next week. However, any boringness changed when they saw a figure walking towards them, and he was imitating to say the least. He was 5'4", which was tall for a 13-year-old. He wore white hakama pants with a white sash around his waist, black tabi socks, and straw-woven samurai-style sandals. He wasn't wearing a shirt, which showed off a few scars on his torso and arm, but he had iron wrappings wrapped around his lower torso. He wore a black yukata that was its right sleeve and shoulder draped around his waist, with red flames coming up from the bottom and on the bottom of the left sleeve. Around his waist was a black sash for his yukata, and secured in said sash was a katana and a wakizashi. Finally, on his hands were black gloves and white medical tape covering the boy's forearms. When he got closer they saw that he was ripped. He had pecs that would make the girls die from blood loss from all the nosebleeds they would suffer. A six-pack could be sightly seen under his iron wrappings, and the muscles on his arms made his look like he can punch through 10 layers of steel without chakra. The guards also noticed that he had spiky blonde hair that stuck in multiple directions. His face had no baby fat, making him look older than he was. His cold sapphire blue eyes held a lifetime of hardships and suffering that shouldn't belong to a boy at his age. But what shocked the guards was that he had 3 whisker marks on his face. They didn't need to know who the person was, and that's what scared them. Naruto Uzumaki, the boy everyone thought was dead, was back, and he looked pissed. Hokage Tower. Naruto walked up to the secretary, who was busy painting her fingernails. "Hello miss, I need to speak to the Hokage, now," he said to her. "He's in a meeting now, go away," the secretary replied in a snooty voice, completely ignoring him. Naruto knew she was lying. It was around noon on a Monday morning. The Hokage had no meetings, and was probably on his lunch break about now, but would allow a few people in his office if it was an emergency. And right now it was an emergency. Feeling that this woman needed a good lesson, he did a few hand seals, and whispered, "Demonic illusion. Hell-viewing jutsu." The secretary then screamed and fell from her seat. Her screaming alerted the Hokage. "What's going on in here?" he demanded before seeing the boy standing over his secretary. "What did you do to my secretary?" he asked, pulling out a kunai. Naruto scowled a little. "Calm down, old man, I knew she wouldn't comply, so I decided to use some scare tactics." He then put his hand in the tiger seal and muttered, "Release," undoing the genjutsu on the woman. "Who are you?" the old Kage asked. "Years ago a fox disappeared, and today he has returned," Naruto said, getting Sarutobi's attention. "Follow me, boy," the Sandame ordered. Shrugging in reply, the blonde followed the old fire shadow until they were in his office a minute later. After locking the door, and placing a silencing jutsu around the room, Sarutobi turned towards the boy he thought was dead for so many years. "Naruto, is that really you?" he questioned him. "Right on the money, you old monkey," he said before pointing to his whisker marks. "Or has your memory deteriorated over the years since I've been gone?" Faster than the blonde could follow, he was wrapped in a strong, yet AWK card hug by one of the most powerful men in Fire Country. "I have missed you, Naruto-kun," Sarutobi said, pulling him closer, only for Naruto to awkwardly return the hug. "Where have you been for these past 7 years?" he asked, finally letting go of Naruto. "Take a seat, this will take a while," the blonde replied, pulling up a chair. Many hours later, Sarutobi was stunned. For the past 7 years Naruto has faced and done so many horrible things it would make Ibiki sick to his stomach. And that was saying something, because he was a well-known sadist who could handle anything. "So let me get this straight, you've trained with the infamous Shishio Makoto and his group, and traveled all around the shinobi nation, and now you want to join the village?" Sarutobi asked, but felt that Naruto wasn't telling him everything. "Yes. All right, here's a note for the genin exams in 10 minutes. Sarutobi sighed after processing the information. "I thank you, Lord Hokage," Naruto said, disappearing in a swirl of flames. "Lord Hokage?" Those words sounded bitter in his mouth. Out of all the people in the village, Naruto was the only one to show him any form of disrespect. But now his go-lucky attitude was gone, and who could blame him? Out in the world, a boy has to become a man sooner than others. He only sighed and lit up his trusty pipe, hoping the nicotine would soothe out his thoughts. Academy. Naruto landed before the academy doors. His already furrowed brow narrowed even more. He remembered his first day here, and it wasn't a pleasant one. For 1 whole year he suffered rigged tests and punishments for the tiniest mistakes. But that was then, when he was nothing but a weakling, and this was now. Pushing the doors open, he walked through the corridor to the room he had been instructed to go to, room 374. He could hear the class talking and laughing as they approached the door. He knocked on it and were answered with a, "Come in." After the door had been opened, the room, which had been loud with the playful noises of this year's graduating class, had turned silent. They looked at the new arrival with suspicion. The fangirls, which had just 1 second been smothering Sasuke, looked at the handsome new arrival but brushed him off as he couldn't compete with their Sasuke-kun. However, almost all the guys were wondering about his scars, the coldness in his eyes, and wondering why he was dressed as a samurai, because this was a class for ninjas. At the front of the class were 2 adults in a chunin vest. One had brown hair tied in a paintbrush-styled ponytail. He bore a scar across his nose. The second one had silver hair with deception in his eyes. "May I help you?" Iruka asked. He was then handed the note, got a look of surprise on his face, and then went back to normal. "Okay class, today we got a new student," he said, making the entire class groan in protest. "Iruka-sensei, how come he just walks into here and take the exam, while we had to stay and listen to all your boring lectures? That's bullshit, plus he's probably some wannabe samurai who will lecture us on our ways of life," a boy with a dog on his head complained. "Kiba, watch your mouth. And the guy just went on a training trip for a few years, plus you all know him, you just didn't pay attention to him. Besides, you might learn something from him," Iruka scolded, reciting what the Hokage wrote on the note. "Go take a seat," he told Naruto. Naruto only nodded to the scarred chunin and started walking up the stairs looking for a seat. So far he didn't like any of the kids. However, a few looked to be okay for the most part. One of them was a guy with black sunglasses and a trench coat, a fat guy eating chips, a guy sleeping, and a girl with white eyes, so he decided to sit by her. As he sat by her, he saw her looking at him. She was shaking nervously, but the look in her eyes showed that she knew him. She's looking at me like she knows me. But unfortunately I don't know her name besides seeing that she's a Hyuga. Naruto thought to himself with disinterest. Class, it's time for your final tests. Iruka spoke up, but everyone minus a key few ignored him. Sighing, the scarred-faced Chunin knew what he had to do. Shut up, he shouted, causing his head to enlarge 5 times its normal size, creating the famous big scary head jutsu that was well known throughout the village. Seeing the monstrous head caused the rowdy students to shut up, and focus all their attention on the Chunin instructor. Good, for the exam we will do a written test, weapons, and ninjutsu test. But before we begin the test, I would like to announce Sasuke Uchiha as Rookie of the Year. Iruka declared, enticing all of the screams and cheers from Sasuke's fan club, and making the blonde cover his ears from their shrieks. Now time for the graduation exam. The written test, Mizuki announced before handing them out to the students one by one. The written part went by without much hassle. Naruto had no problems because of his training with Saizuchi, and he smirked as they graded the papers. Iruka cleared his throat. Okay, now we'll announce the scores for the written exam. Sakura Haruno 100 out of 100, Naruto Uzumaki 100 out of 100, Hinata Hyuga 100 out of 100, Sasuke Uchiha 99 out of 100. What? A fangirl shouted. Iruka-sensei, that can't be right. The new guy last getting 100%? That's impossible. Yay, Iruka-sensei, he cheated. Sakura screamed. There's no way he did better than Sasuke-kun. Ino added. That wannabe samurai couldn't possibly know what us ninja do, another screamed. Shut up or I'll tear your guts out and hang you with them. Naruto said coldly, making everyone back off, having the feeling he meant it. Naruto, please don't scare the students. Come on, let's go outside for the weapon and ninjutsu part of the exams. Iruka announced, ushering the to-be genin out of the room. Outside. Once outside, Mizuki and Iruka told them about the next part of the exam. Now for the weapons portion of the test. Everyone line up. You need to hit all 8 points on the target. The entire class went up. Some did good, others failed miserably, while others did above average. Until Sasuke was the last person to go before Naruto. The Uchiha took out 8 shuriken and threw them at the dummy. He hit 7 targets while the last one hit a tree. Very good, Sasuke. Iruka congratulated the Uchiha heir. But the teen simply ignored him and went off to the sidelines. Naruto, you're next, Mizuki announced, giving him a fake smile. Naruto stepped up, causing most of the class to snicker. He heard the whispers that the wannabe samurai couldn't even throw them in a straight line. However, a few remarks from the guys said his sword was compensating for something. Narrowing his eyes at their foolishness, the blonde took 4 shuriken each in his hands, crossed his arms, and threw them, and all of them hit their targets deeply in the dead center of the target and walked away calmly. Iruka was pretty impressed seeing the last bit. He had to admit that while the blonde didn't look it, he had exceptional ninja skills. Clearing his throat, he was about to announce the next part before the fangirls started screeching again. Sensei! A fangirl screamed, make them do it again. He cheated. Samurai can't throw shuriken, it's impossible. Another fangirl screeched. Yay, there's no way that wannabe samurai could have. Sakura tried to continue, but Naruto interrupted her. Didn't I tell you to shut up, Haruno? Naruto said with irritation in his voice, and fingering his katana. Naruto, please stop scaring my students. Let's get to the ninjutsu portion of this test so I can go home. The scarred Chunin sighed, honestly wishing he invested in some earplugs. A number of students came forward and did the academy jutsus. Many did a decent job, while others failed miserably. But the ones that did noticeably better than the rest was the trenchcoat kid named Shino Aburame. He created an insect clone out of the bugs in his body, much to the girls' disgust. The fat kid named Choji Akamichi did his clan's expansion jutsu, making him as big as a boulder. The sleepy kid named Shikamaru lazily did the shadow possession jutsu his clan was famous for. The Hyuga named Hinata honestly did her best, but didn't have any more jutsus to perform since her clan deemed it forbidden, and the mutt boy named Kiba Inuzuka did his clan's all-fours jutsu, turning him more feral. Until it was Sasuke's turn. The brooding teen walked up to a training dummy, and flashed through 8 hand seals with the last one ending on tiger. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. He called out before firing out a massive orb of roaring flame out of his mouth. The flame then incinerated the training dummy to a pile of burnt wood, which made his fangirls scream in delight. "Naruto, how many are you doing?" Mizuki asked once it was his turn. "1, not including the academy jutsus," Naruto answered, shocking many of the students, as they didn't even know that samurais knew the art of ninjutsu. Most thought he was bluffing before he easily transformed into the Sandaime Hokage's, which had places with a nearby log, and created 10 illusions of himself. After finishing those 3 techniques, Shishio literally beat into his head. He then did a series of 5 hand seals that ended on snake and whispered, "Wind style. Great breakthrough," and shot a wave of wind from his hands that leveled 15 trees, leaving an impressed Iruka and a pissed-off Uchiha. "Okay, now that's over, hold up, Iruka-sensei, isn't there another test that we could do for extra credit?" Some whiny student who miserably failed all 3 tests whined out, causing a bunch of agreements from the other failures. Iruka, in all his years of teaching, was at a loss on what to do. He looked over to his best friend only to see him with the same lost look on his face. The scarred Chunin looked up at the position of the sun to determine the time. "Iruka, I believe we have plenty of time for one test. How about a taijutsu portion?" the silver-haired Chunin suggested. "But we haven't done that in years since one student crippled another." Iruka protested. "But that's only because we weren't fast enough to prevent it. Look, it's been 6 years and we both have more experience under our belts." Mizuki casually replied. "Plus, do you really want to teach a larger batch next year when we could get rid of more than a few today?" The brunette suppressed a shiver. While he did love teaching, some students were just plain intolerable. "All right, I'll agree with you this time," he sighed, giving it. Mizuki only clapped his hands to get their attention. "Well, students, there is one more test you could take if you want," he announced to them, gaining cheers from a majority. "All right, the last test will be sorely based on taijutsu. You're to use no weapons, and no form of nin or genjutsu. Now line up and I'll randomly pick some names for the match-up." Naruto casually watched the so-called matches with little interest. Most of these brats wouldn't survive out in the world with this level of skill. A few matches later, he saw the fight between Shino Aburame and Shikamaru Nara. Or should he say the no match was, because Shikamaru gave up before it even began, saying it was too troublesome. Sakura and Ino tied with each other in a match that made him want to throw up. Hinata won against some no-name, which was a no-brainer in his opinion. Choji fought against Kiba, and won via Choji sitting on Kiba for calling him fat. While funny, it was sad seeing the arrogance of the Inuzuka heir. Now will Sasuke Uchiha and Naruto Uzumaki step forward? Mizuki called out the last 2. The blonde frowned, seeing that this was far from random, but since he couldn't really do anything without any consequence, he stepped into the ring. "I'm going to enjoy kicking your ass, Dobi," Sasuke declared. "You can try, Sasuke. You can try." Naruto sighed. Meanwhile, the fan club was cheering on their Sasuke-kun. "Go, Sasuke-kun. Kick his ass. That loser samurai can't match you. You hear that, Dobi?" Sasuke asked, charging. "You're gonna lose." The Uchiha threw a punch to Naruto only for Naruto to dodge it and all of the others effortlessly. "Damn it, stop dodging so I can hit you." Naruto just stopped his punch with his hand. "Isn't it the point for me to dodge, idiot? You're annoying, go away," he said before punching the Uchiha in the stomach and sending him back into a tree. Unfortunately for Naruto, Sasuke wasn't giving up. He got up, pulled out a kunai and ran at him. "Sasuke is disqualified for using a weapon in a taijutsu match," Iruka yelled out, hoping to stop the fight. "Actually, Iruka-sensei, I don't mind a match like this. But don't blame me if he gets hurt because of his stupid actions," Naruto said, dodging Sasuke's attack. No, he couldn't stop him. Iruka allowed the match to go on. But he was unaware that they were being watched. Hokage Tower. Sarutobi was watching the fight through his crystal ball along with a few Junin. Asuma Sarutobi, Kurenai Yuhi, Kakashi Hitaki, and Gai Maeda. "So this is the Uzumaki kid who disappeared nearly 8 years ago?" Asuma asked his father. "Yes, he is," Sarutobi replied. I must say he does fight very well. I wonder who taught him. Kakashi pondered. What I want to know is why the students hate him just because he's a samurai. Kurenai pondered. Kurenai, as you know, the samurai and ninjas have been at each other's throats for years. The idea why varies, but I believe it is their lifestyles. Because the samurai fight with honor and loyalty, while us ninjas do the exact opposite. Two sides of the same coin we are, it's such a shame. Sarutobi sighed, rubbing the bridge of his nose. Naruto-kun's flames of youth is shining brightly. If I cannot match him, I'll run to Wind Country and back on my hands. If I can't do that, I'll do 3 million push UPS with a 10-ton boulder on my back. If I cannot do that, Guy ranted, not realizing the people in the room ignoring him. Lord Hokage, do you know why he disappeared? Kakashi asked, clearly curious how and why his sensei's son disappeared. From what he told me, after a very bad beating, two Chunin took him to the Valley of the End and… Oh my god, did his katana just catch on fire? Guy screamed in disbelief, making everyone in the room look into the crystal ball, and sure enough his katana was on fire. Back to the fight. The fight was getting deadly. Sasuke has already put a few small cuts on Naruto's Yakuta. However, Sasuke himself was already suffering from some bruises. Sighing that the fight was getting nowhere, Naruto decided to end the fight. He pretended to leave an opening for the Uchiha to attack him, and that said person took the bait. As he got close, Naruto unsheathed his katana, which caught on fire as he slashed Sasuke across his chest. Sasuke screamed out in pain as the serrated sword cut and burned at the same time. He hit the ground rolling, until he came to a complete stop 10 feet away from Naruto. He was about to get up when he felt a sandal on his neck, and stared up at the emotionless eyes of Naruto with his flaming katana near his forehead. Naruto, enough is enough, you've already beaten him. Iruka ordered, appearing next to him. Sorry, Iruka-sensei just got caught up in the moment. Naruto replied, putting the flames out and sheathing his katana in his scabbard. He started walking away until Sasuke jumped to his feet and yelled at him. Dobi, tell me how you got so strong, the Uchiha demanded. Why? Naruto asked, though knowing the reason already. Because I demand it. You demand it? Tisk, 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 you're a sad little man. You are nothing but a spoiled brat, always expecting to get your way because you are the last Uchiha. You have absolutely no power over me, so I don't have to do anything you ask or order me to. You are nothing but an insect to me, the samurai said, shaking his finger while walking away. In a rage, Sasuke ran at Naruto. He jumped into the air and made a flying kick that was about to connect with the back of Naruto's head. The teen whirled around, and caught Sasuke's foot by the ankle. Naruto then swung Sasuke over his head and smashed him into the ground, knocking him unconscious. Sighing, Naruto let go of the boy's ankle and walked away until Sasuke's fangirls started screaming at him. They were screaming at him saying, "How can you do that to Sasuke-kun?" Or, "You monster," and the famous, "You will be killed for this." Naruto just ignored them and walked away. Retrieving his Hite-8 from a stunned Iruka, he tore off the blue cloth, replaced it with a long flowing black one, and put it on his forehead all at the same time. Later that night, Sarutobi sighed. The council was on his back once they found out that Naruto was alive. They were demanding his death for trying to kill the last Uchiha. Currently he was in the council chambers with all the clan heads, civilian council, the elders, various Junin, witnesses who saw the fight, the so-called victim, who by the way was completely healed by the way, and Naruto himself. Time for an explanation. You see, the council room is a large circular room with rows of climbing stands and small desktops. On the lowest levels of the seats were the 10 civilian council members, and where Hibari Haruno, a member of said council, sat at. Behind them were the shinobi council seats. Amongst them were the Hyuga, Aburame, Nara, Yamanaka, Akamichi, and Inazuka clan heads. However, there was one empty chair that used to belong to the Uchiha, but it would remain vacant until Sasuke was old enough to claim it. On the upper levels were a few men. One was wearing a white cloak and mask. He was the leader of the Hunter Nin organization, and the Anbu Black Ops. The second was woman with long curly black hair and glasses wearing a white outfit. She was Shizune, the principal of the academy. The third was a CV-looking man in a white doctor's uniform. He was Kuro, the director of the hospital. And finally behind them at the top were the elders, which included Sarutobi's teammates Kaharu and Homura. while the last one was a one-armed man named Danzo, leader of the Root Anbu, although nobody knew they existed yet. Why was Naruto here? Simple, he was on trial. Naruto, it says here that you viciously assaulted Sasuke Uchiha. Is this true? The Sandame already knew it wasn't true, but he had to do his job or he would never get to go home. Naruto shook his head. No Hokage dono, I was taking the Genin exam like everyone else. I was picked to fight the Uchiha and frankly put I kicked his ass. After I won I tried to walk away, but he attacked me from behind. So I caught his kick, and slammed him into the ground. He gave his reply like it was the most obvious thing in the world. Sarutobi nodded. Alright, that's your story, I already asked Sasuke. And he didn't comment, so I had to ask some of the witnesses who saw the fight. The third then turned to Sakura. Sakura Haruno was it? He asked. Sakura nodded respectfully. That is correct, Lord Hokage. May I have your story? You were present at the fight. Sakura instantly cast an angry glare at Naruto. Sasuke-kun was injured by this freak for no reason, she hissed. The same was said from Ino and Sasuke's other fangirls. Naruto clenched his fists. He wanted to yell in outrage, but he knew that it would do no good and make him look like a fool. Plus he knew that the Hokage had been watching the fight, because he remembered sneaking into his office when he was younger and saw him looking through a crystal ball. Looking at the woman's side of the hot springs. Good, he now had blackmail material. However, when he listened to the guys he couldn't help but feel some pride, hearing how he kicked the bastard's ass and hearing them say the samurai guy, as they called him, was an okay guy. He also heard Iruka's side of the story, which was more detailed than his story was by a long shot, but was pissed when he heard Mizuki's sorry-ass story saying he was about to kill the entire class and burn down the village. The verdict was that Naruto was innocent of all charges, and that this trial was a waste of time. He ordered everyone minus Naruto and the entire council to stay in the room. Sighing at the stupidity of the council, Sarutobi spoke the dreaded demands the council asked him to tell Naruto. Naruto, even though you are innocent, the council still asks for your execution. He sighed before rubbing his temples. What are the charges exactly? Naruto asked, probably knowing the answers anyways. Why we shouldn't kill you for abandoning the village, a fat civilian council member sneered. I was 6 years old, dipshit, and I was a civilian at the time, so I can't be executed as a missing ninja. The blonde stated. You would have spilled our secrets to another village, the same man responded. What secrets? I didn't know any jutsus back then, and I didn't know anything about your defenses, number of shinobi, or structure of the village. Even if they did capture me, I wouldn't be able to tell them everything. Naruto said to the man like he was retarded. That was an awfully detailed list, Naruto. Care to explain that? Shibi Aburame asked. Well, Lord Aburame, when I left the village, I was taken in by my senseis and taught a lot of things. The Kyuubi Jinchuriki replied, causing the Mont's eyebrow to slghtly rise up, being called Lord. Such as? Homura pried into the conversation. Like I'm going to tell you. Naruto spat with venom in his voice. Why, you ungrateful little. That's enough, Homura. Sarutobi shouted at his teammate. Are we done yet? This meeting is too troublesome. Shikaku Nara sighed. I just have one question for the brat. Kaharu said, we of the council demand you hand over that katana to Sasuke. What did you say? Naruto asked in a low voice. I said we demand you hand over that flaming katana to Sasuke Uchiha. She repeated, earning a blast of killing intent from Naruto. Listen, you wench. You have no right to demand me to hand over my most sacred possession. The blonde replied, trying to keep his voice even. The hell we do. You are now a shinobi of this village, so you have no choice but to listen to us. Homura bellowed. In response, Naruto unsheathed his katana, its flames roaring with rage. I will never hand over my sensei's katana to anyone. The only way you can have it over my cold dead body. Who is this sensei of yours anyways? Whoever he was some sorry excuse of a man to train a monster like you. The fat civilian laughed, making Naruto release even more killing intent that made the man start to gasp from air. You pathetic excuse for a man. How dare you speak of my master that way? Naruto raised his voice at the council, making everyone in the room, minus Sarutobi, look at each other disbelievingly. I answer to none of you except for the Hokage himself. If you try to control me, you'll pay with your lives. The blonde said with absolute conviction in his voice. Putting the flames out, he sheathed his katana in the scabbard, and remember this, I'm back, and will not take this bullshit anymore. If I'm attacked by anyone, I'll defend myself. If I hear anyone breaking the Sandame's law, I'll kill them, and if you pull a stunt like this ever again, I'll make the Kyuubi attack look like a harmless little fox when I'm through with this village. He said to everyone with malice in his voice, and stormed out of the room, leaving a foul smell from the civilian council, smirking members from the shinobi council, 2 amused people, and 4 plotting men and women. Academy the next day. It was the next day at the academy. While most of the kids who passed were excited to be paired on teams, Naruto was dreading it. It didn't take Saizuchi's lessons to know he would be paired with the best, and the average person for a team. This was the only time he cursed at himself for not returning earlier so he could get on a better team. But he could only just wait for the inevitable. It was about that time Iruka called out the members of his team. Team 7. Sasuke Uchiha. Sakura Haruno. He would have continued except Sakura squealed and jumped up and down like she just won the lottery. Take that, Ino pig, she taunted. Shut up, forehead, Ino snarled. Iruka cleared his throat loudly to get the 2 kunoichi to stop bickering. Thank you. The final member of Team 7 is Naruto Uzumaki. Your Junin sensei will be Kakashi Hitaki. Sakura spared a frightened glance at Naruto, and then sat down, hoping he didn't see her. Team 8. Hinata Hyuga, Kiba Inuzuka, and Shino Aburame. Your Junin sensei will be Kurenai Yuhi. The scarred Chunin blushed a little thinking about the exotic Junin. Team 9 is still in circulation from last year. And finally Team 10 consists of Shikamaru Nara, Ino Yamanaka, and Choji Akamichi. Your Junin sensei will be Asuma Sarutobi. Ino groaned when she was teamed with the lazy bum and the fat ass, though she dare not say it in front of Choji. 2 hours later, as the Junin senseis appeared to take their students, the teams left one by one until Team 7 were the only ones left. Arg, how can a ninja be so late? It's been 2 freaking hours. Sakura screamed out in frustration. Sasuke did his absolute best to block out her useless bitching, while Naruto himself was barely holding himself back from cutting her tongue out. After a few more minutes of screeching, the door finally opened. It revealed a man in dark blue cargo pants with his kunai holster strapped to his right thigh, shinobi-styled sandals, long-sleeved turtleneck, and fingerless gloves with metal plates on the back of them. He was wearing the standard forest green Junin flak vest with 2 scroll patches on the right and left breast with a zipper going up the middle. A dark blue mask covered the bottom of his face, his silver hair defied gravity, and had his Hite-8 covering his left eye. Are you guys Team 7? He asked. You're late, Sakura screamed, causing the 2 unfortunate teens to cover their ears. Kakashi just smiled under his mask. My first impression is, I hate you. Meet me on the roof in 1 minute. With that said, the lazy Junin left in a cloud of smoke. Naruto simply disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving the other 2 insanely jealous, but they reluctantly took the stairs. Rooftop. Sasuke walked onto the roof a minute later, followed by Sakura. They saw their 3rd teammate and their surprised sensei already waiting for them. Alright then, let's get to know each other. You know likes, dislikes, hobbies, and goals. You go first, Pinky. Kakashi pointed at Sakura, who took offense to the nickname. Why don't you go first, sensei? Sakura asked. Okay then, my name is Kakashi Hitaki. My likes are none of your concern. My dreams. Goal for the future, well, I haven't thought that far. I have lots of hobbies. All we learned was his name. The 3 thought with a sigh. Now Pinky, tell us about yourself. Sure, my name is Sakura Haruno. I like. She glanced at Sasuke and giggled. I dislike Ino pig and. She then glared at Naruto, who simply shrugged her off. My hobbies are. She glanced at Sasuke and giggled again, and my goal is. She glanced at Sasuke again and squealed loudly. Great, a rabid fangirl. Both Naruto and Kakashi thought with disdain. Now you, Mr. Sunshine. Kakashi said, pointing at Sasuke. HMPH. My name is Sasuke Uchiha. I like nothing. I dislike everything. I have no hobbies. My goal. No, my ambition is to kill a certain man and revive my clan. Sakura just stared at Sasuke like he had just said the coolest thing in the world. Great, an Avenger, emo. Naruto and Kakashi thought again. Alright, now you. Kakashi pointed at Naruto. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, that is all you need to know. Naruto said in his emotionless voice. Great, I have a fangirl, an avenger, and a wildcard. Was the Hokage on crack placing these three together? Kakashi mentally sighed. Alrighty then, meet at Training Ground 7 for your first assignment tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock. See ya, then. Oh, and don't eat breakfast, you'll just puke. The masked Junin then disappeared in a cloud of smoke before anyone could say anything. Do you want to go out, Sasuke-kun? Sakura asked hopefully. No, Sasuke replied flatly. Naruto, not finding this amusing, sighed at the two idiots and took off to his old apartment. The next day Naruto found himself walking towards Training Ground 7 after doing his usual morning training exercises, cleaned up, and had a light breakfast. Walking through the village was peaceful once he ignored the harsh glares and angry whispers. You would have thought nearly 7 years would change some things, but it was still the same. The angry whispers, the foul looks and glares, the sneers from shop owners. A long time ago he would have done anything for their respect. But with what he went through for the last few years, he just didn't give a rat's anymore. Lost in his thoughts, he didn't hear a few drunks who caught sight of him, and began bellowing about demons and how he destroyed the village. Not happy about being ignored, the drunks decided some discipline was in order. They ganged up on him, some took out pocket knives, while the others smashed their empty sake bottles to make temporarily weapons. One threw a bottle at Naruto. The blonde caught it and crushed it with his hand. Undaunted, 3 of the drunks tried to stab him. The first aimed at Naruto's head, who ducked and punched the guy in the face, making his head explode. The 2 drunks who saw their friend get killed tried to run. Naruto anticipated this and used speed that no one his age should possess to get in front of them. He unsheathed his katana and swung it at the 2 drunks, turning them into walking bonfires. Naruto smirked seeing the men fall to the ground as the flames ate their flesh, but was disappointed to see that the other 4 ran away. Sighing, he sheathed his katana and walked to Training Ground 7 without any more interruptions. Not that anyone would try to stop him after that display of ruthless killing. Training Ground 7. Just as Naruto arrived to meet his teammates, a familiar scarecrow-like ninja appeared before them. Yo, he greeted, not looking up from his little orange book. You're late, Sakura shrieked, making everyone cover their ears. Sorry, a black cat crossed my path and I had to walk around the village to avoid it. Kakashi merely responded, causing the 3 to sweat drop. Liar! The pink high-haired banshee screamed at him. Undaunted, the masked Junin only eyes smiled at them. Alright team, we will now begin your test. What kind of test? Sasuke asked. A survival test. Kakashi responded, keeping that damn eye smile on his face. That response caused Sakura to groan, while Sasuke merely scowled deeper, and Naruto just stood there with his eyes closed. But we already did that in the academy, the pink cat protested. Kakashi merely chuckled at her. Yes, but not this kind of survival training. The Junin then took out 2 bells attached to a piece of string. You have to take these from me. He then took out a timer and sat it on a stump. You have until noon to do it. Those who can't get a bell will not eat lunch for today. Sakura looked horrified. But there's only 2 bells when there are 3 of us. Kakashi simply eyes smiled. Exactly, he said, making her even more confused. Remember to come at me with the intent to kill, or else you won't get anywhere. Kakashi just eyes smiled again. Begin, he shouted. Instantly the 3 went into hiding. In a nearby bush, Sakura was watching her sensei just standing there. I must get a bell if I want to pass with Sasuke-kun. She wondered where he went. She looked around before hearing a noise. She turned her head to see the face of her sensei. Her eyes widened as she saw him holding up a seal. Kakashi held up his hand in the snake seal. Demonic illusion. Hell viewing jutsu, he whispered. Sakura saw leaves whirling around her as her vision went blurry. She ran out from her hiding place in hopes of running away from her sensei. She saw her beloved Sasuke-kun leaning against a tree, with blood coming out of his mouth and wounds all over his body. It was a gruesome sight for the poor girl. Sakura, run. Those were the words she heard before he fell over dead. She let out a high-pitched scream before fainting. Kakashi stared at his student when she let out a scream. She fell for the easiest genjutsu? Isn't she supposed to have good chakra control? I wonder how reliable those reports are. The masked Junin sweat dropped as he saw how easily Sakura fell to his genjutsu. Sasuke, who was hiding in a nearby tree, heard a girlish scream. That must mean he got to Sakura. Hey, easier for me now since there are 2 bells and I only need 1. He continued to keep his eyes open for his sensei. Naruto turned his head to the voice of the scream. Pinky went down hard. He mentally chuckled to himself before finding a tree with a nice spot to watch the fight. Kakashi walked back onto the field. 1 down, 2 to go. He wondered how the infamous Uchiha would do, and how strong Naruto was. Sasuke saw Kakashi just standing there, leaving himself wide open. There, he left himself wide open. He threw a kunai with an exploding tag attached towards Kakashi. Kakashi heard a whizzing noise coming towards him and dodged at the last second. He was caught completely by surprise when he noticed there was an exploding tag attached to it. The note exploded, causing a loud boom, sending mild shockwaves from the area. Sasuke saw Kakashi jump away, towards the left. He saw his chance to attack. He leapt up from his tree and flung shurikens with his right hand and several kunais with his left. The shurikens went for Kakashi as the kunais went below him. Kakashi saw the kunais flying under him, missing him by a wide margin while the shurikens were coming directly towards him. Kakashi heard a loud thumping sound before seeing a rain of more kunais and shurikens flying towards him from every direction. Sasuke was standing nearby as he saw his sensei get impaled by his trap. Over already? Sasuke though before he went on high alert when he saw his sensei's bloody body turned into a log. Substitution. Shit, that means he knows my location. Sasuke ran from the tree and into an open area. So that's where he was. Kakashi jumped up from his own hiding spot before confronting Sasuke. Naruto yawned as he watched his teammate try and best the famous copycat ninja. This test is so obvious, I'm surprised the so-called geniuses didn't figure it out first. The blonde continued to watch the fight between Sasuke and Kakashi with little interest. He knew Sasuke was way in over his head, but it was funny to see the one-sided fight. Sasuke took out a pair of kunais before raising it to guard himself against his sensei. He was about to throw it when Kakashi reached into his weapon pouch. Kakashi noticed Sasuke hesitating. Why didn't you attack me? I was just going to take this out. Kakashi pulled out his little orange book. Don't worry, you probably won't even stop me from reading. That infuriated the last Uchiha. He was supposed to be one of the elite, and yet he was getting mocked by his sensei. Sasuke threw his kunai before rushing towards Kakashi. Kakashi caught the kunai with his right hand, and stepped back just to avoid his student's punch. The raven-haired teen swung his right hand towards his sensei's face. But the Junin dropped the kunai before catching the fist. Sasuke then turned his body around and threw a kick from his sides, which Kakashi caught by using his left hand. Kakashi began to spin his body, increasing his momentum and using the boy's momentum as well to throw the Uchiha away. Sasuke landed on a tree before replacing himself with a log. Substitution? Kakashi turned around to see Sasuke finishing up some hand seals. Fire style. Fireball jutsu. Sasuke finished the seal and sent a huge fireball towards Kakashi. An academy student should not have this much chakra reserves to pull this off, he mentally yelled to himself. He dashed towards the incoming fireball and disappeared. Sasuke's attention was being diverted to the scorching of his sensei in front of him. He didn't notice Kakashi going underground until he heard a muffled voice shout out, Earth style. Headhunter jutsu. And he found that his head was above the ground, and Kakashi rising out of the ground in front of him. Nice try, Sasuke. He taunted the teen before going off to find Naruto. Unknown to Kakashi, Naruto saw the fight between the two wannabe ninja. He picked Sakura up and unceremoniously dropped her on her ass when they got to Sasuke, which startled the Uchiha because he didn't hear him walking up besides him. What the hell do you want? He scowled. For a person who just got his ass kicked, you sure are an idiot. Naruto calmly replied, why don't we work together to get a bell? Sasuke dug himself out of the ground with some help from both Naruto and Sakura. I don't need help from a dead last like you. And stop doing that, he demanded as Naruto dusted him off a bit. Yay, we can do it ourselves. Sakura chirped in. You two need to learn to respect your superiors, or I might have to kill you too. Naruto started to walk away but turned his head to look at the two idiots again. Don't say I didn't help you. He disappeared in a cloud of smoke, hoping to find Kakashi so he can get the bells. And a second later the blonde reappeared in the field with Kakashi standing by the tree reading his book. "Ready to fight Kakashi-san?" Naruto asked. "Nope," Kakashi said until a kunai sliced his cheek open. "What the hell? Where did he get that kunai? I guess I really shouldn't underestimate him." Kakashi grimaced. "Good thing I stole a few things from the Uchiha, pickpocketing really comes in handy." Naruto thought until he saw Kakashi pull up his Hite 8 showing off his famous Sharingan eye. He slid into the Iron Fist stance. While he slid into an unknown stance, they charged each other. Naruto sent a right hook which was blocked and followed with a sidekick by the masked ninja. He caught the man by the leg and went to throw him to the ground. Kakashi flipped in mid-air and caught Naruto's right fist, which they used to rebound off of to spin in mid-air and send a right kick which was blocked as well. Kakashi grabbed Naruto's leg and threw him into the river only for him to land on top of the water. Naruto started doing seals which Kakashi responded to by doing his own. Water style. Water Dragon Jutsu. Naruto yelled as a giant dragon made completely of water rose from the stream. Fire style. Dragon Flame Jutsu. Kakashi yelled back as an equally huge dragon made of fire appeared outside his masked mouth. The two dragons collided with each other creating a huge cloud of steam. Kakashi was temporarily blinded as the steam hit his eyes. He then felt something throw him against a tree. After coming to his senses he realized he was tied to a tree with ninja wire. He looked where the wire came from, only to see Naruto with the wire in his mouth. Fire style. Dragon Flame Jutsu. Naruto muttered his technique as an orange and red flame came out of his mouth and caught the ninja wire on fire, traveling along the wire as the dragon flame collided with Kakashi. As the flames died down, Naruto saw a burnt log in Kakashi's place. "You have to do better than that, Naruto." Kakashi taunted 20 feet from Naruto. "I guess I should stop holding back then." Earth style. Hand of Judgment. Naruto called out as he slammed his hands on the ground. Quickly a large hand made of stone almost 3 times Kakashi's size appeared behind him and slammed on top of him, bringing up a large cloud of smoke. When the smoke cleared, Naruto could see the hand on top of what looked to be the splintered remains of another log. "I'm afraid you'll need to be faster than that, Naruto, although I'll admit it was a good try," Kakashi said from behind the boy. "Okay, then how about this?" Earth style. Stone Dragon Assault, the blonde shouted. Suddenly several stone dragons came from the ground and snaked their way towards the silver-haired Junin, causing him to jump in the air. Grand Dragon of the Mountain, the teenager continued. Kakashi was surprised as a shadow grew over him and he turned to see a dragon 20 times bigger than the others bearing down on him quickly. Before he could react, the creature had slammed its head into the ground and swallowed him in the process. Naruto walked towards the stone dragon, but he stopped when a strange chirping sound came from the stone dragon. Suddenly, a hand covered in lightning ran down the body of the dragon and into the ground in front of him, causing the creature to split in half and a large explosion of dust to fill the area. When the dust finally began to settle, a haggard Kakashi stood in front of Naruto. "That was a very good try. You almost caught me with that one. I wonder what else you have up your sleeve," Kakashi said to Naruto. "Not much, just this," Naruto responded as he slammed some smoke bombs into the ground. As the smoke enveloped the Junin, Kakashi was blinded, but that didn't stop him from dodging a punch from Naruto. As he dodged, Kakashi saw Naruto's fist hit the tree that was standing by, burst into splinters. "Damn it, when I said come at me with the intent to kill, I didn't think you would take it seriously. And so far he nearly killed me 3 times already. Come on Kakashi, pull yourself together and finish this," Kakashi thought as he backed far away from Naruto. Sasuke and Sakura had to slap themselves to make sure they weren't imagining things. They each thought that the fight between the two would be Naruto getting his ass kicked. But this was the complete opposite. They saw the blonde stand toe-to-toe against a Junin of all people. So far they saw him move at speeds that no genin should possess, walk on water, cut Kakashi when they couldn't land a hit on him, steal from one of his teammate without being obvious, use C-to-A ranked jutsus, and destroyed a tree with one punch. Sasuke was clearly mad. If his red face was any indication, where did he get this power? "I should wield that kind of power, not him." "Wait, calm down, wait until the test is over, and go ask the council to demand him to teach me his techniques." The last Uchiha thought as he kept watching the fight along with Sakura, who was wondering how strong Naruto was. The two stared at each other trying to find any weak points in their defense. There were none. Both of them kept their bodies tense and ready to react at a second's notice. Then without warning Kakashi went through 3 hand seals. After Kakashi finished his last seal he called out, "Lightning Blade," and then grabbed his right arm as lightning appeared on his right hand. Naruto called out, "Blazing Glory," as his right hand got covered in pure red and white flames. As they stood they ran towards each other and met in the middle as they extended their right arms which covered their techniques. The results was a chakra struggle which lasted for a good 5 seconds until the jutsus couldn't handle the strain anymore and exploded, sending the two flying away from each other. At that same time the bell rang signaling the end of the test. "Well, it looks like you failed." Kakashi sighed with a relief. "I don't think so, Kakashi-san." Naruto taunted as he held up the bells, making Kakashi freak out, making him look for them until he sighed in defeat. "How did you? Pickpocketing comes in handy. I see. Well, then it appears that you passed the test. Sasuke, Sakura, you can come out now." The Junin announced, looking toward the tree where his other 2 students were the spectators that witnessed the entire event, and they were beyond shocked. Kakashi watched as his 2 students arrived behind him. "Since you two didn't even get a bell and Naruto got both of them, you two fail." He then watched for reactions as he said his statement calmly. Sakura had her head down while Sasuke was gripping his fist. "Do you have anything you want to say to them, Naruto?" Naruto looked towards his fellow genins. "You 2 idiots turned down my offer, and you can fail by yourselves. This village has no need for weak shinobi. However, this test is about teamwork, so I'll take pity on you and give you the bells," Naruto said, tossing the bells at their feet. "Damn you, Dobi, I don't need your pity." Sasuke threw a punch towards Naruto. Naruto took 1 step back and threw his own punch into the Uchiha's ribcage. A loud crack could be heard as Sasuke was sent flying back from Naruto's punch. His hands were covering his now broken ribcage. Sakura ran over to Sasuke. "Sasuke-kun, are you okay?" She glared at Naruto. "You monster, why did you hurt him?" Naruto glared right back at her. "I don't like surprise attacks. If you get in my way, I'll kill you too," Naruto stated, and disappeared in a swirl of leaves, leaving Kakashi wondering if he can actually make this team a team. Hokage Tower. "Ah, Kakashi, there you are. May I assume that you deprived yet another team of youthful youths from their pursuit of being a ninja?" Guy greeted the copycat ninja. Kakashi had expected Kurenai and Asuma to be here when he arrived, but he had never expected Guy of all people to be here. Unless he was here for some sort of a mission debriefing, since he had no business actually being here when the newest Junin senseis reported their team's success or failure. Of course, he couldn't let Guy know that. Did you say something?" This got the requisite reaction out of the green beast, as he began prancing around the room shouting something about being hip, but he didn't really listen. That's not to say that he didn't take Guy seriously. The man was probably the most skilled and strong overall Junin out of any of his peers, excluding himself. The man was an absolute monster when it came to hand-to-hand combat, and his jutsu skills were incredible when he was actually forced to use them, under the physical duress of opening the 8 celestial gates, of course. If someone were ever to actually force his true opinion of the man out of him, it would be an absolutely glowing report, and Kakashi trusted the man implicitly. He was broken from his musings on his strange friendship with the green spandex-wearing freak across the room when the Hokage opened his office door and strode in, giving Guy a look that clearly showed amusement as well as exasperation. His act could wear on the nerves sometimes. They were all broken from their thoughts as the Hokage sat down and motioned to Guy to turn in his mission report. Guy at that moment showed his serious side, calmly walking over to the Hokage and handing in his report. With a nod to Kakashi, he simply disappeared from view, and it was pure speed, too. The Hokage glanced over the mission report, grimacing slightly over something that was particularly gruesome, Kakashi imagined. It was no secret Guy got some of the toughest missions than any other Junin, and he had probably killed more men than even Kakashi had in his lifetime, which was saying something. The Hokage put down the mission report and calmly took a puff on his trusty pipe before motioning to his son Asuma, somewhat unacknowledged as he was to give his own report. Asuma took a puff on his own cigarette and calmly delivered it. Team 10 passes. Ino Yamanaka, Shikamaru Nara, and Choji Akamichi showed that they had ample skill and teamwork abilities to pass my test. They're not without their faults though. Ino is bossy, rude, and shows no real compunction to follow the lead of others, but when push comes to shove she does what's needed. She's mature for her age, no doubt about that. Shikamaru is almost her antithesis. Lazy, uncaring, and no motivation whatsoever, but he's smart. Very smart. I'll probably end up giving him an impromptu IQ test later, but he can come up with strategies in a heartbeat that rival even the best Junin strategists. Choji follows Shikamaru with an almost blind loyalty. He's kind, generous, and while smart, he certainly is no genius. He's as powerful as his father was at his age, and with the right training, he could be absolutely incredible. Altogether, they make a good team just about as well as their parents, really. Asuma took another puff on his cigarette, and the Hokage nodded to him. The new Ino Shika Cho lineup was almost a given to pass, it just remained to be seen if they really could live up to their parents' shadows. The Hokage took another puff on his pipe and motioned to Kurenai to begin. Team 8 passes. Kiba Inuzuka, Shino Aburame, and Hinata Hyuga passed my test with flying colors. Kiba is a blowhard and has the beginnings of being a pervert, but he's strong, loyal to a fault, and shows that he does have a mature side when pressed. Shino is an enigma, just as much as any Aburame is. He's good at what he does, uses logic to solve most problems, and works well in a team environment. Hinata has a definite confidence problem. She's adequate with her family taijutsu style, and shows a basic proficiency with academy jutsu, but her lack of confidence or even motivation is a definite disadvantage of hers. Overall though, they work well as a team, they'll do. Kurenai threw a furtive glance towards Asuma and stepped back, before the Hokage nodded to her as well and turned his gaze to Kakashi. Kurenai and Asuma did the same, but they both had an almost known look on their faces. Kakashi hadn't passed a Genin team for his entire tenure as a Junin outside of Anbu. Team 7 passes. Kurenai and Asuma both had shocked expressions on their face, before they schooled themselves back into ones of simply amused surprise. This would be an interesting story. Sasuke Uchiha, Sakura Haruno Sakura, and Naruto Uzumaki showed me that the first two are complete idiots. Everyone's sweat dropped hearing that out of him, and I'm not going to lie, they'll need a huge load of work. The Uchiha is a brooder and relies mostly on himself for everything, but he has shown at least a good amount of skill. Sakura fawns over Sasuke to a fault, and I'll need to break her of it, if I can at all. Now Naruto is something else entirely. He noticed the confused looks of his fellow Junin. Naruto is by far the strongest out of all of them. He knows many high-level jutsu and most of them don't have any hand seals. Hell, there are some I have never heard of before. He is probably as strong as me. Kakashi told them, much to their disbelief stares. Kakashi, you can't be serious. He's only a genin. Kurenai exclaimed. Kurenai, that genin managed to cut my cheek open. Kakashi showed them said cheek, which made them wonder how they didn't see it earlier. He made me unveil my Sharingan eye. He stopped at their shocked looks to show that he was completely serious. He almost incinerated me, crushed me, had a dragon made completely out of earth eat me. I had to use my lightning blade to get out of that dragon. He then blinded me with some smoke bombs, and almost turned my head to dust with his fist without using chakra to enhance it. Finally he made me use my lightning blade again against some fire attack that enveloped his fist. We locked into a stalemate until our jutsus couldn't handle the strain and blew up on us. And then the bell finally rang, but sometime during the match he stole them. Now everyone was doing an imitation of a fish. They just couldn't. That Kakashi Hitaki, the legendary copycat ninja, was almost killed 4 times by a genin, and said genin made him use his famous Sharingan eye, and his original jutsu not once but twice. That day everyone knew to never underestimate Naruto Uzumaki. Later that night, Naruto laid down in his tiny little apartment, staring up at the ceiling, bored out of his mind. His so-called genin test was too easy. He couldn't do any training this late at night, and he just couldn't get to sleep. He snapped his head to the side as he heard a lot of cussing. He looked out to see a Junin saying that the Hokage should have a good reason to wake every available ninja at this time of night. This made Naruto interested, and he followed him. After a few minutes of following the unsuspecting Junin, Naruto made it in time to hear the Sandaime Hokage's speech about the forbidden scroll of sealing being stolen. After hearing the conversation, Naruto was a little interested in this little predicament. This could be an opportunity to get some very powerful techniques. Kyuubi spoke up. "Kyuubi, I see you're awake." Naruto mused. Yay, now back to what I was saying. This will be a good time to learn some very powerful techniques. Mess sounds good to me. I got nothing better to do anyways. The forest a few minutes later. While the blonde didn't know where the scroll was, or who stole it, he had a snaking suspicion who it was. Using his instincts on where he would go if he stole the scroll, he headed to the village's western wall. His quiet arrival showed who exactly stole the scroll when he saw Iruka on the ground with a few dozen kunai and shuriken embedded in him. And saw Mizuki jump backwards, and threw a giant shuriken to finish Iruka off. The giant shuriken made its towards the prone Iruka, but Naruto came in between and cut it in half with his flaming katana. Iruka saw the person who saved him and his eyes widened. "Hello Iruka-sensei, lovely evening isn't it?" Naruto said sarcastically. Iruka just twitched and slowly turned his head to face Naruto. Naruto," was all he could say as blood came from his throat. Naruto stared at Iruka before turning to a smirking Mizuki. "So you're the traitor? Such a shame, you've showed a lot of potential." Naruto sighed sadly, however. "I do not like traitors, so I hope you're prepared to die." He continued with venom in his voice. Mizuki laughed at that. Big words from a brat. He then suddenly got a devious idea and he grinned knowing it would work. "Naruto, do you wish to know why the entire village hates you?" Iruka's eyes widened and he forced the blood out of his mouth to speak. "No Mizuki. It's for forbidden." The silver-haired Chunin's grin just widened. "Naruto, the story of how the Kyuubi was defeated and killed by the Yondaime is a complete lie. The Yondaime couldn't kill the demon, so he sealed it into a newborn. That newborn was you, Naruto. You are the Kyuubi." He then proceeded to cackle madly knowing he broke the teen. Naruto instead just gave out a small chuckle. "What the hell is so funny?" Mizuki hissed at him. "I already know of the demon. I've known about him for years." Mizuki's eyes widened as did Iruka's. "Seriously, if you think I'm that naive, then you're the fummest person I've met to date." Mizuki just stared at Naruto in horror, seeing his plan didn't work. "It does not matter, I'll still kill you. And once you're dead I'll kill Iruka too, so I can pin everything on you." "You shall do no such thing," Naruto said coldly as he scraped the tip his katana on butt of his sheath, and it caught aflame. The first secret sword. Blazing Soul. The blonde dashed forward at a speed that surprised the silver-haired Chunin. Mizuki took out his other giant shuriken, and threw it at the blonde. He only cut it in half and proceeded to cut Mizuki across the chest. The katana dug deep into Mizuki's chest, cutting his heart cleanly in half. He then did a 180 and sliced his head off. Naruto smirked as his latest victim fell dead to his feet, catching a flame, and his head flew a few feet away with the permanent looks of horror, pain, and disbelief on his face. He then looked over to Iruka, who fell unconscious a few seconds ago. The blonde walked over to the fallen man and did the diagnosis jutsu Yumi taught him when he was younger, only to find out that he had severe internal bleeding, 6 broken bones, and a light concussion. Looking around he saw his Tarager, and went over to the scroll that was laying down by a nearby tree and opened it up. Know it, boring, useless, pathetic. These 3 look promising. Kyuubi memorized them because I know I won't remember all of it. The teen muttered under his breath. "Will do. What the hell is this?" Naruto whispered as a small scroll fell out of a secret compartment of the larger one when he picked it up. He was about to open it when he remembered Iruka's condition, and discreetly pocketed the item. "Oh right, can't let him die." He then went over to Iruka again. While he was okay with medic jutsu, he knew that he couldn't fully heal him, but he could at least stabilize him until they got to the hospital. It took a minute to remove all the kunais and shurikens. Naruto then whispered, "Mystical palm," and light green chakra came to his hands. After moving them around to certain parts that really needed to be treated, he healed his injuries. Performing another diagnosis jutsu, Naruto found that Iruka was stabilized for the moment. Strapping the forbidden scroll to his back, he put the injured man on one of his shoulders and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Naruto's home a few hours later. Once the blonde brought the injured Chunin to the hospital, he found at least a dozen Anbu members and the Hokage himself waiting for him. After handing the scroll and the chunin to two random Anbu members wearing a tiger and cat mask, the old Hokage brought him into his office. It took 2 hours of explanation for the blonde to tell the old fire shadow how he knew what was going on. But when the old man questioned him looking at the scroll, he told him the truth. He said he couldn't resist taking a peek, but once he opened it he saw that most if not all the techniques in there were suicidal. Sarutobi only nodded before thanking him for coming clean, and then sent him away. And now here he was holding the scroll he found in the forbidden scroll of sealing. There was an emblem holding this scroll shut, wind blowing across the sea, creating waves. Breaking the seal, Naruto opened it to read its contents. And was surprised to say the least. To my son Naruto, if you're reading this, then you are a chunin or 15 years of age, and you know about being Kyuubi's vessel. For that I can only hope that my wishes were respected. Let's get the introductions over with. I'm Minato Namikaze, Konoha's Yellow Flash, and the Yondaime Hokage. And your mother is Kushina Uzumaki, Whirlpool Country's Red Death, and former heiress. First off, I can't blame you if you hate me for what I did. I never wanted to condemn anyone, much less you, to a fate like this. Unfortunately, it was my only choice outside of letting Konoha fall. I just want you to know that, even though both your mother and I will never get to see you grow, we both love you very much. Hopefully we won't be seeing you for quite some time. Dua's proud son. Also at the bottom of this scroll is a blood seal. And it contains the keys to my house, and a scroll containing both your mother's and my most prized jutsus. Know this, my son, your mother and I will always love you no matter what you do. And one day we both hope you can surpass us. Grow up strong, kiddo. Love, your father Minato Namikaze. P.S. If you see an old pervert with white hair, and wearing kabuki clothes, give him a hard kick in the nuts for me for spying on my wife. Mom. Dad. Naruto sighed and finally went to sleep. Naruto was not a happy person. Why, you ask? It was pretty simple actually. He was on a team with a perverted cyclops, a emo, and a screeching banshee. And for 3 months they'd done nothing but D-ranked missions, from digging up weeds to catching the daimyo's wife's cat. Because he was so busy with his missions he did not have time to read the scroll his father gave him. Also, the day after his genin exam, he was summoned by the council again. And the next day he met Konohamaru, the Sandaime Hokage's grandson. Flashback. Naruto Uzumaki, you are charged with treason, for the murder of 3 civilians, Mizuki Toji, and the vicious assault on Iruka Amino. A civilian council member said with a smirk. Naruto, how do you plead? Sarutobi sighed, knowing this was the biggest waste of time. Apparently the council needed glasses from the report he wrote that specifically stated his rescue of Iruka Amino, and killing the traitor. But apparently these civilian bigots decided this was a crime. He was honestly wondering why they were involved in shinobi matters in the first place. Not guilty. Naruto simply said. Bullshit. You're to be executed immediately. The pink-haired council member screeched, only to get a blast of killing intent from Naruto. Naruto Uzumaki and Hibari Haruno, that is enough. Sarutobi yelled. Naruto, please explain your reasonings. First off, 7 drunken idiots attacked me, and I merely defended myself. I killed 3 of them and the other 4 fled like cowards. They were lucky that I had to get to my genin test or I would have killed them as well. As for Mizuki, he was the one who attacked Iruka. He became a missing ninja after he stole the forbidden scroll of sealing. So I merely did what the hunter ninjas do, I eliminated him. Naruto said with massive irritation in his voice. What Naruto-san said is true. Mizuki became a missing nin, and we would have hunted him down if Naruto-san didn't kill him. The leader of the Anbu said on his behalf. Oh really? How can you prove that? Hibari snarled. When we got to the scene of the fight we found several kunai and shuriken with Iruka-san's blood on it. 2 slightly melted giant shurikens that were cut in half. Several indents in the grass where the forbidden scroll of sealing was, along with some footprints, and Iruka-san's body imprint, and the burnt remains of Mizuki's body along with his unharmed severed head. The man said, making the Haruno fume before silencing herself. As for the killings, it was clearly in self-defense. After all, I did that when a drunk assaulted me when I was a genin. And all I did was get a slap on the wrists. Sume Inuzuka complained, as of which we of the Shinobi Council determined that Naruto Uzumaki is not guilty on all accounts. Hiyashi Hyuga announced. However, before we can go home, Sasuke Uchiha has demanded that you give him all your techniques. Inochi Yamanaka sighed knowing the results of this incident. First of all, the Uchiha can go fuck himself, and second, what did I tell you about pulling something like this? Naruto said in a deadly tone. I believe you would make the Kyuubi attack look like a harmless little fox when I'm through with this village. Shibi responded in a voice that clearly showed this was going to be a disaster area soon. That's correct, Lord Aburame. However, because the Hokage pleaded with me not to do anything drastic, I've decided to let you all off with a warning. I don't care, you rotten demon. You have tainted our village with your vile essence for too long. The fat civilian council member bellowed. I don't care what that pathetic excuse for an old man says anymore, you're going to die today. The idiot then proceeded to take out a suntetsu from his Yakuza sleeve, and charged at Naruto, who was standing still until he was in range and he made his move. He grabbed the fat man by his neck and held the 350-pound man in the air with just his left hand. So you want me to die, huh? Well, let me tell you something, you fat piece of shit, you broke the third's law. I don't care about the law. That old bastard should step down and make me his successor. He obviously has no idea how to run this place, unlike me, the fat moron screamed. If anyone were to pay attention to the rest of the council's faces, they would have seen pure idiocy looks on them. This fat moron actually proclaimed that he could run the village better? A man almost as big as Choza, with absolutely no shinobi training, proclaimed himself the Sandame's second successor? Even the civilian council, who disagreed with the Hokage on a few things, respected the Mons Positon as leader of the village while they were silently taking his power away over the years, of course. But this idiot just sentenced himself to death. Naruto looked over to the old cage. Shall I take care of him? He did break the law after all. Sarutobi looked right into the Mont's eyes, and saw a fleet ng hope that he would be spared. Do it, he ordered, much to the disbelief of many council members. Naruto only nodded and followed the old Mont's orders. The second secret sword. Crimson Lotus Arm. He whispered as he unsheathed his katana. The friction ignited the oil on his katana and the gunpowder on his glove, blowing the man to pieces. Covering Naruto's entire arm in blood, globs of fat, and flesh. The blonde then looked at the rest of the civilian members who already yacked up their breakfast that morning. I believe this meeting is over, goodbye everyone. Naruto said and disappeared in a cloud of smoke, leaving behind a scene of death, and Sarutobi calling for a janitor. The next day we found Naruto walking home from getting his picture taken for his ninja license. However, the photographer started giving him crap, and that put him in a foul mood. Lost in thought, Naruto wasn't paying attention to his surroundings until he was suddenly barreled over by something smaller than him. A child, most likely. Watch where you're going, you imbecile. Yep, definitely a child. He suppressed a sigh. This was just exactly what he needed right now. Hey idiot, you gonna say something? The child yelled. Naruto got to his feet with a suddenness that sent the kid sprawling to the ground, and flopping onto the ground with a dull thud. Watch where you're going, brat. He then turned to continue on his way. Hey, don't walk away from me. Apologize. Naruto turned around with a glare that caused the kid to flinch. And he finally got a good look at the kid. He was about the average height of an 8 or 9-year-old, probably 4'2", had black eyes that held total innocence, something which he almost envied. He was wearing the most stupidest hat that the blonde had ever seen that made his brown hair stick out of it like a volcano spewing out lava with a smiley face button on it. His clothes consisted of a simple yellow shirt, white shorts, and blue sandals. The only thing that didn't fit his clothing was that long-ass blue scarf that went to the ground. Leave me alone, he said. This was not the time to be on his nerves. The kid quickly regained his composure and screamed, No. After you knocked me over, you expect me to just drop it? Who do you think you are? Naruto turned around. By this time several villagers had gathered and were looking worried. First of all, you crashed into me, so shut your mouth and leave. The kid scowled and ran up to him. Hey, do you know who I am? I'm Konohamaru Sarutobi, the honorable grandson of the third Hokage. Show some respect. As soon as those words left Konohamaru's mouth, he was roughly lifted into the air by the front of his shirt. He gazed into Naruto's eyes and felt afraid for the first time in his life. But before he could say anything, what looked like a Junin wearing a dark blue sweatshirt, dark blue sweatpants taped at the ankles, blue shinobi-styled sandals, a bandana with his Hite 8 on the front of it, and black sunglasses appeared. And immediately scowled at the sight of Naruto. Release the honorable grandson this instant, he demanded. Konohamaru felt a bit of courage return and he began to speak again. "Ya, put me down. Ya don't wanna have to face my grandfather, do ya? If you hit me then you're screwed." Naruto narrowed his eyes as the kid began to smirk. "Release the honorable grandson this instant," the Junin demanded once again. The villagers were getting antsy. They wanted to say something but they knew they would only make things worse for the boy. After Naruto killed those 3 men in broad daylight, and heard what he did to the council member he killed yesterday, they were reluctant to try and attack him again. Konohamaru gazed into Naruto's eyes defiantly and said, "So you won't put me down? Are you scared? You can't touch me. If you do then you face punishment from my grandfather. It's better for you to just apologize and put me down." "Yes, listen to what he says," the Junin yelled yet again. "Ha, I'm untouchable. You'd be an idiot to hit me." That was it, and everyone saw it. They went to say something but it was too late. Without a word Naruto nailed Konohamaru on his head, and tossed him to the hard ground behind him. Konohamaru landed squarely on his ass, skidded a couple of feet before slamming into a wooden fence. The Junin was stunned. Naruto looked at the Junin and said, "I wouldn't care if the brat was related to Kami himself. Make sure he knows that labels and association mean shit to me," and with that, he walked away. The villagers moved over to where Konohamaru was unconscious to give the boy any kind of help. They also made it point to tell him that Naruto was not someone to piss off. The Junin glared at Naruto's retreating form. "Don't think this is over, Fox," he muttered. Unfortunately for Naruto, wherever he went Konohamaru followed, and it wasn't too hard to tell since the boy didn't hide his chakra signature very well. Or the fact that he held a blanket camouflaged as a fence sideways showing his feet, and the square rock with holes that followed him everywhere he went. Finally he had enough and kicked the pathetic disguise at least 2 miles away, leaving Konohamaru exposed. "Hey, how are you doing?" the Hokage's grandson asked with an embarrassed blush on his cheeks. Naruto examined the child with a raised eyebrow before he spoke in a flat monotone voice. "What do you want?" There were numerous answers Naruto expected to hear from him, like another demand for an apology. However, his answer shocked him. "Will you train me, boss?" Konohamaru asked, pure sincerity in his voice as he asked his question. Naruto had only one thing to say to this. "What? Please train me," Konohamaru said with a huge smile. "Why?" "Because I won't leave you alone until you do." Naruto thought about this for a moment. He could always kill the kid, but then he would have the village after his head. And unfortunately for him, he did owe the Hokage one for keeping him as safe as he could get before he met Shishio. After another period of thought, he gave Konohamaru his answer. "Fine." He then grabbed Konohamaru's shoulder, and disappeared in a cloud of smoke. We now find them at Team 7's training ground. "Alright kid, tell me, what do you know about chakra?" Naruto said. To perform techniques, ninja need to use their chakra. Chakra comes from 2 places. The first is the body's energy inherent in the trillions of their cells, and the second is the mental and spiritual energy gained from exercise and experience. To perform a jutsu, the ninja will bring out and release these 2 energies. The amount of chakra required for a technique will vary depending upon its size and complexity. Each ninja has the potential to better utilize an elemental ninjutsu style. Konohamaru recited. "Yay, now do it without that scroll you're holding." Naruto's sweat dropped. "Today I'm going to show you how to climb a tree." "Boss, I already know how to climb a tree." Konohamaru stated the obvious. "That's right, but there's just one rule. No hands," Naruto said, now letting Konohamaru know that he'll have tried to climb a tree with this condition. Are you serious, boss? You're kidding, right?" Konohamaru asked his sensei. Without responding, he then did the tiger seal and he saw a faint bit of dust lift from his feet. He then proceeded to walk towards one of the trees in the surrounding area. What the boy expected to see when he put his foot on the trunk of the tree and tried to walk up it was to see him fall straight on his ass. But that was not what he saw, and it surprised him. Because there he was, casually walking up the tree with hands in his pockets. When Naruto finished his walking, he was hanging upside down from a branch. This action made Konohamaru jump up and scream how cool that was. "Focus your chakra into your feet and try to stick to the tree." Naruto then took out the last kunai he swiped from Sasuke during his test, and threw it at Konohamaru's feet. "Use this to mark your progress." He continued as he fell from the tree and landed on the ground. Needless to say, Konohamaru picked up the kunai and ran at the tree. However, in his excitement he forgot to add chakra to his feet, and he slammed face first into said tree. As the day wore on, Naruto saw that Konohamaru's progress, and he silently admitted the kid was good. After falling on his ass and head numerous times, the kid was making steady progress. But the day was nearing into the late afternoon. Naruto told Konohamaru to take a break, seeing him about to collapse from exhaustion. They were both sitting on a fallen log, drinking some lemonade that Naruto bought, both looking at the sunset. There was one word that could be described for this scene: peaceful. After finishing his drink, Naruto spoke to him. "Why did you want me to train you exactly?" "Because you hit me," Konohamaru answered. Seeing Naruto raise an eyebrow, he continued. "Grandpa gave the name Konohamaru. I'm named after the village. Even though everyone knows my name, nobody ever calls me that. When someone is talking about me or calling me, all they see is the Hokage's grandson. I'm sick of it. No one sees me as me. That is why Ebisu, the glasses guy, is training me to become Hokage. By training under him, he says I will become Hokage in no time. That is what I want, so people can acknowledge me as me. But unlike the others who always kiss up to me, you are the first to do something different. Now that I'm training under you, I'll become Hokage for sure." Naruto could relate to the kid when he was about that age. He was always screaming that he was going to be Hokage. But after years of hardships, he realized that was just a selfish dream. Sighing, he stood up and told Konohamaru the cold hard facts of life. "Idiot, who would acknowledge a brat like you?" "Huh? The Hokage title a little brat could take." Naruto continued. "What? This isn't kids play, moron. The title of Hokage. If you want the title that bad, then what?" Konohamaru screamed. "Then stop being naive," Naruto said coldly, shocking Konohamaru. "The Hokage title is the title of the greatest shinobi in the village. He or she is the one who has mastered over 1,000 jutsus, who has killed more people than you can even think of, and is willing to give his or her life for the village without a second thought." He then stood up to leave. "Remember, there are never shortcuts in life, Konohamaru." And with that said, Naruto left the boy to ponder on his thoughts. A few minutes later, when Naruto was way out of hearing distance, he spoke to the trees. "You can come out now, Ebisu." A second later, said glasses-wearing Junin appeared in front of him. "How much did you hear?" he asked. "All of it," the special Junin answered. "Good, I expect great things out of him. So don't try to fill his head with that shortcut nonsense." Naruto then walked past him, not knowing that he changed Ebisu's view of the so-called demon brat. Flashback ends. Needless to say, he wasn't bothered by them again, well, for now. Anyways, Team 7 finally returned from their latest mission. Team 7 turning in our report. Lord Hokage. Kakashi reported. Everyone just looked at how the cat's owner, Madame Shijimi, squeezed the life out of Tora. "Oh, my baby Tora CCCCHHHHHHAAANNNNN. Don't run away again." The hugging Tora was put under could easily be called animal abuse. "Now I know why it keeps running away." Team 7 thought in a union. Madame Shijimi paid her mission fees and about to walk out, when Naruto spoke to her. "Excuse me, Shijimi Dono, I believe I can stop Tora from running away," he said to her, making everyone wonder if that was even possible. "Really? Care to share?" Madame Shijimi asked. "It's really simple, don't squeeze him so hard," Naruto said, and then disappeared in a cloud of smoke. Needless to say, the cat never bothered anyone ever again. After that, Team 7 left, and a few minutes later Team 8 arrived asking for a C-ranked mission. 2 days later, Naruto woke up to someone knocking on his door. Sighing, he got out of bed and went to the door. He opened it to see an Enbu member wearing a deer mask. "Naruto-san, Lord Hokage has called for your presence," he said, grabbing Naruto's shoulder and disappearing in a cloud of smoke. Sarutobi's office. As Naruto and his Enbu escort arrived, he saw teammates and sensei in their pajamas. He would have laughed, but he wasn't any better himself. Once they were together, the Hokage swirled the back of his chair to meet them eye to eye. "I'll make this brief. 2 days ago, Team 8 received a C-ranked mission to escort a bridge builder to the Wave Country. Supposedly, the only dangers were supposed to be bandits and thieves. However, they were intercepted by 2 Chunin-ranked missing nin known as the Demon Brothers from the village hidden in the mist on the way there, bumping the mission up to at least a B rank. Kurenai and her team were able to fend them off rather easily, however. The man paused, letting the information sink in. Upon reaching Wave Country itself, they were intercepted by a Junin-level missing nin from Mist by the name of Zabuza Momochi, as well as his apprentice. He stopped when he saw Naruto tense up a little bit. We don't know the specifics, but shortly after dusk yesterday, a message was delivered by summoned carrier pigeon that stated that Kurenai and her team had been defeated, although apparently, all of them survived, and Kurenai was able to fend off Zabuza. We aren't exactly sure what's going on now, but we do know that she asked for reinforcements in the letter, and I am sending you 4 as those reinforcements. This is a B-ranked mission. If it weren't for the fact that I don't have anyone else to send, you wouldn't even be considered for this mission. If anything, the only reason that you 4 are going along is to rescue Team 8 and bring them home. Do not engage anyone working under Zabuza and his employer. I will ask you this only once, and all 4 of you must be in complete agreement. Do you want this mission? We are the only people available, right? If we don't go, who will? My comrades are in danger, and you're asking us if we want to go? If the team doesn't go, then I will go by myself, Naruto said without room for argument. Kakashi couldn't hold back a slight smile of pride as he heard Naruto's thoughts. Even though the teen was trained under one of the most dangerous and cruelest men in the bingo book, which the Hokage informed him and him alone he was alright. And with that statement he pretty much convinced the entire team to join in on the mission. Because Sasuke would take this as a challenge, and Sakura would follow him like a lost puppy. You leave in 3 hours, and Kakashi, you better show up on time, or I'll make you only do D-ranked missions for the next 5 years. Sarutobi threatened, making the Junin nod in understanding. 3 hours later, Team 7 met each other at the village gates, however they were waiting for one person, Naruto. After about 10 minutes they could see the form of the blonde. This was odd to the 3 ninja as Naruto was never late for a mission. He was usually the one waiting for the rest of the team. What they found even stranger was what was on Naruto's back. It was a ceremonial dagger attached on the back of his waist, and a red kanji symbol for Chosen One on his upper back. Naruto, where are your supplies? Kakashi asked, causing Sasuke to grin. Couldn't even get prepared for a real mission, Naruto? He asked in a cocky tone. Naruto pulled a small scroll from the sleeve of his yukata. I sealed everything away so it wouldn't interfere with anything, he stated, causing the Uchiha to frown. Good thinking, Naruto. Alright team, let's head out, Kakashi announced before they left. A few hours later Team 7 was making excellent time. It was nearly 3 hours ago they left their village. And already they were halfway to their destination. However, once they landed for a 15-minute break, a leaf messenger bird landed near Kakashi. Untying the message on the bird's back, the copycat ninja started reading it, his lone eye narrowing with every word. Kakashi-sensei, what does it say? Sakura asked after seeing his eye narrow to a near impossible angle. This is not good, he sighed after he burned it. What? It appears that Gato is Zabuza's employer, and that he has hired more ninja to take Zabuza's place for the time being, so the Hokage sent 2 other ninja to help us, and that this mission has been upgraded to a ranked mission. That's it? Sasuke asked. No, the letter says that he has hired over 1,000 mercenaries and bandits. And even more bad news. There are 5 major camps, and we are approaching one of them. Our new orders are to secure the safety of Team 8, destroy them, the bandit camp, and anyone working under Gato. Sakura looked at her sensei as if he were an abomination of nature. Destroy it? Sensei, are you out of your mind? Naruto gave her a hard glare. Sakura, we are ninja, our job is to kill. They are nothing but mercenaries and bandits. Having nothing to retort with, Sakura just turned his head to the side and scowled. Kakashi only sighed once again. I'm guessing that there are probably around 300 mercenaries in that camp. For a Junin and 3 well-trained genin, this shouldn't be too much of a challenge to handle, assuming we plan well. Don't worry, I've done this before. We'll strike at night when they are most vulnerable. Naruto agreed. Later around midnight the group took a look at the camp for the first time. It was a dump. It was a large expanse of tents, cooking fires, bandits and mercenaries that went on for probably close to a mile. The men were milling about contentedly and haphazardly, some of them passed out drunk, others biting into large portions of food. Huh, I'm surprised that there aren't any women in the camp. Kakashi sighed with relief. What do you mean by that, sensei? Sasuke asked. Usually most camps like this these men have women to fuck with. I guess luck is on our side tonight. Naruto replied much to Sakura's horrified look. Alright Naruto, Sasuke, and Sakura, I want you to stay outside of this camp and kill any stranglers. Kakashi ordered. Actually sensei, I'm going with you. Naruto whispered next to his sensei. No Naruto, you can't. I'll make some shadow clones to cover my post. Besides, I need to get some exercise, if you know what I mean. Naruto said, hoping that Sakura and Sasuke didn't hear them. They didn't. Fine, just be quick about it. Alright, we strike in 15 minutes. Kakashi agreed, but couldn't help but wonder how his student knew the shadow clone jutsu. Nearly 15 minutes later, Naruto and Kakashi made a ball of exploding tags, and threw them into the camp. One of them landed in the middle of the mercenaries, causing the drunk and woefully off-guard men some panic. A few seconds later, a deafening boom shook the ground. That was when Naruto and Kakashi made their move. Kakashi took the right side of the camp while Naruto took the left. Naruto came at one bandit with a katana in each hand, and stabbed him in the head. Turning around, he brought his sword down across a man's back at a diagonal pitch, causing blood to spray from the man's wound. It had been deep enough that the man would probably have bled out. He saw a bandit fleeing, and wouldn't allow it, so with a grimace for what he was about to do, he threw one of his katanas at the man and watched it dig into his neck. Finding another, he readied his remaining katana and slashed horizontally, cleaving the man in two. He turned back and watched as a bandit took his katana from the neck of the one he killed. This set Naruto into a spiral of anger that this bastard was even touching his weapon. He ran at the man with his immense speed, swung his sword and cleanly decapitated the bastard. Another mercenary charged him head-on, seeing his buddy's death. He brought his sword down horizontally, however the blonde retrieved his katana and crossed them in front of him, blocking the strike. In the blink of an eye, he brought them together, breaking the sword in half like scissors cutting into paper, and the man was impaled swiftly through the heart. While this was happening, Sakura strayed from the boundary line, and now she was wishing she didn't. For the last 10 minutes he was watching both her sensei and teammate commit this massacre. Now she knew Kakashi fought in the Third Great Shinobi War, and killed plenty of people over his lifetime. However, he was a Junin, so she didn't have a problem with that. But Naruto was a genin and he was killing men left and right like he has done this over 1,000 times. It made her sick to her stomach seeing someone the same age as her commit this atrocity. While she was lost in her thoughts, she never heard the sounds of footsteps approach her until it was too late. A giant hand clamped around her mouth and dragged her away at least 30 few feet from the doomed camp, until she came upon a group of 20 bandits. Hee, so this is one of the shinobi attacking our camp? One of them laughed. No, this is what they call a kunoichi, but it doesn't look like she is a threat. Another one agreed. I hope she is a virgin. The last one said, making them all agree on that. They're going to rape me. No, Sasuke-kun, save me. Sakura thought frantically with tears running down her eyes. The men were about to run away with her from the dying camp, but they were then impaled by tree roots. The mercenary who was holding Sakura captive looked around for the attacker, until he was ensnared by several tree roots. He then came face to face with a brown-haired man wearing black cargo pants, sandals, and gray armor. The back and front of his chest and thighs were armored perfectly, and bracers extended over the back of his hand and up to his fingers so as to give his hands some protection. They attached to a pair of black fingerless leather gloves that kept the piece of armor securely fastened to his hand and arm. On his back was a katana, and he was wearing a white mask that was shaped like a tiger with red tiger whiskers on it. But on his left shoulder was a red tattoo indicating that he was part of the Anbu. Hello Kunoichi-san, you want to deal the finishing blow? The Anbu asked. Only to see that Sakura had fainted. Oh well, more fun for me. He shrugged as he unsheathed his standard Anbu katana, and chopped the bandit's head off. Meanwhile, Sasuke was doing what exactly Kakashi told him to. So far he already killed 5 stragglers, and he was doing a very good job. He took out a kunai when he spotted his next victim, only for a shuriken to fly into the mont's skull. He turned around to see a purple-haired Anbu woman wearing a white cat mask. Am I late for the party? She asked. No, it's just starting, he replied, reading his kunai and threw at another straggler. Back to Naruto, he was cutting men down left and right. After impaling 2 mercenaries at the same time, A group of 50 huge men blocked his path. "Hey, this might be a tough one, might as well step it up a notch," he said as he brought his two katanas together, creating one handle and hilt, but instead of one there were two blades. The mercenaries and bandits smirked as they saw the blade, and thought it would be worth a fortune. Their thoughts were cut short when the teen simply disappeared. They wondered where he went, their questions were answers when they screamed and fell, headless, cut in half, missing legs and arms cut at their arteries, or cut into pieces. The dead bandits fell to the ground with a thump, and the only thing that could be seen at the slaughter were footprints deeply embedded into the earth. Falling to one knee and panting like he ran in a marathon, Naruto turned around, and saw that every enemy around him were all dead. He saw his sensei standing a few yards behind him, giving him what he thought was a thumbs up. A few minutes later he saw a male Anbu operative carrying an unconscious Sakura, and Sasuke following a purple-haired Anbu woman. "Ah, Neko and Tenzo, I didn't expect you two to be our reinforcements." Kakashi greeted the two Anbu members. "Hey Kakashi-senpai, when Hokage-sama told us about your mission I just couldn't stay there and do nothing. And call us by our names. The Hokage said it was okay just this once." The man known as Tenzo greeted his superior, before he placed Sakura on the ground, jolting her awake. "Naruto," the newly awakened Sakura called out, interrupting the conversation. "What do you want?" the blonde asked his annoying teammate. "I saw what you did. How could you do that to someone like you did earlier?" she asked with Naruto sighing before looking at her. "Sakura, we are ninja, which means we have to kill eventually," he casually replied, with the adults silently agreeing with him. "But they were other human beings whose life you took. Yet you were so emotionless when you did it. How could you act that while taking someone else's life?" Sakura demanded, getting a dark chuckle from Tenzo. "Kunoichi-san, there are people in this world that love nothing more than to do this kind of business. Or did you already forget that you were nearly raped not more than 5 minutes ago?" Tenzo asked, seeing Sakura turn green. "Alright Yamato, that's enough. So Yugo, how are you doing?" Kakashi asked a woman who was once under his command. However, Yugo didn't answer, because she was too busy looking at Naruto's interesting weapons. "Naruto-san, are those what I think they are?" she asked. "Yes, they are the Renbato, Repeater, Mugenjin, Unlimited Blade, Kami's Dagger, God's Dagger, and the Kiku Ichimonji Norimmune, Crest of January. But what about? Every ninja has his secrets, so please keep it to yourself," Naruto said, slinging the combined Renbato blade over his shoulder, and turning away from them. "Where are you going?" Yamato asked. "Well, if you haven't noticed, I'm all bloody. So I'm going to bathe in the river to clean myself, along with my blades, and my clothes." A few minutes after he left, Kakashi asked the question that was bugging him. "Yugo, what was that about?" "Kakashi, you didn't know?" Yugo gasped out in surprise. "Know what?" the masked Junin asked, now really confused. "Those weapons Naruto-san has are worth a fortune. He's practically carrying $250 million on his sash. You've been reading Sword Fortune with Hayate again, haven't you?" Kakashi's sweat dropped hearing that. 20 minutes later Naruto came back clean as a whistle, but he was getting a little weirded out. Yugo looked like she wanted to jump him, not thank goodness. Sasuke was glaring at him. Kakashi was eye-smiling him. Sakura was now very green. And Yamato was just staring at him for no reason at all if other than to annoy him. "What the fuck are y'all looking at?" he asked. "Naruto, we got a prisoner, the leader of camp," Kakashi said plainly. "And what do you want me to do about it?" "Well, we were wondering if you could interrogate him? Because we're just trained to eliminate our enemies, not interrogate them," Yamato said sheepishly. It was unfortunately true. He and Yugo both signed up for the killing classes when they joined the Anbu. Because frankly, in his opinion, he honestly didn't think he would deal with prisoners on missions. "Just because can I kill without remorse? You think I can just torture somebody?" the blonde asked, making the three look ashamed of themselves. "Of course I'll do it," he continued, making them face fault. "But should I let those two watch?" he asked, pointing at Sasuke and Sakura. "It doesn't matter," Kakashi answered. "Then lead me to the bastard." A minute later everyone went into the main tent, where Naruto saw the pathetic excuse for a man. He was tied securely in a chair. He was bald and fat, ugly bastard that wore animal pelts as clothing. "Alright, stand back," Naruto ordered them as he walked up to the man who glared at him. "Okay, I'll start out slowly. What is your name?" he asked the man. "Fuck you," the man spat at him. Whipping the spit off his face he said, "Wrong answer." He then asked Kakashi for a kunai. His perverted sensei tossed him one a second later. Then without hesitation Naruto stabbed the mont's left index finger off, making him scream in pain. "I repeat, what is your name?" "Go suck a dick, cocksucker," the man yelled, resulting in his middle finger getting cut off. "What is your name?" Naruto asked again. When the man didn't answer he stabbed through his right hand. "Ga, Toji. My name is Toji." "Now is that so hard?" "Now for a harder question, where are the 4 other camps?" the blonde asked. "Never. You must love pain then." The Kyuubi Jinchuriki sighed as he took his kunai and carved the mont's left eye out. The 5 witnesses watched the gruesome scene with a variation of shock and horror. Kakashi was no saint in the shinobi arts, but he always found the art of torture out of his league. Simply because he couldn't stomach the idea of torturing the man without it keeping him up at night. While the 2 Anbu members were grateful that they had their masks on, they saw various forms of interrogation over their years. But this was just terrible. Not even Ibiki did something like this. The giant man used mental torture to get his info out of his victims, while Enko used physical torture like cutting the skin or pricking them with needles over and over again, and if that failed Inochi used his clan's jutsu to retrieve the person's memories. But none of the interrogators used Naruto's methods. Meanwhile both the genin were doing their best to keep their composure. Sasuke's eyes were wide open in absolute horror, because Naruto was acting just like his brother the day of the massacre. Sakura finally broke down, threw up, and covered her ears to keep the screams away. After pulling the mont's eyeball out, and squishing it with his bare hand, Naruto asked the question again. The man finally spilled his guts. 3 are surrounding Wave Country. The 4th is in the city. Are there any women in the camps surrounding Wave? Naruto asked, fingering the kunai. No, just in the town where we have our fun. The man grinned. Until Naruto plunged the kunai into his groin area, effectively castrated him, making the men put their hands over their packages. OWWW. What the hell was that for? I answered your question. Toji cried out in pain and the loss of his friends. You were thinking with your dick, and not with your head. Now another question, how many ninja has Gato hired? Naruto demanded after wiping the poor kunai on the mont's outfit. 25, not including Zabuza, his apprentice, and the demon brothers. The weeping man cried out. What villages are they from? 10 are from the Hidden Rain village, 15 from the village hidden in the stones. Toji said, making Naruto's eyes widen for a brief second. My last question, where is Gato? He spat the mont's name with venom. I'm not going to tell you. No matter what, so you should just kill me now. Toji screamed, seeing he had nothing else to live for. I'll just do that. Naruto complied as he dragged the man by his hair outside. A minute later he brought the man over to a tree. Not noticing the 5 people following him, Naruto executed the man in the most brutal way possible. Naruto tore the man from the chair and slammed him against the tree. Seeing the man was stunned, he broke both his kneecaps in, and then he threw the man to the ground. He grabbed the mont's arms, put his right foot on his back, and pulled on them until they broke with a sickening snap. The man screamed out in bloody murder as Naruto pulled again, ripping his arms off, and beat him with them for 30 seconds. Naruto then took out a kunai and cut the mont's stomach open. He tore out his intestines and put it around his neck and hung him on the tree. Seeing the man strangling to death, Naruto went through some hand seals and yelled out, "Fire style! Dragon Flame Jutsu!" as the large dragon made of fire shot out of his mouth and impacted the tree. The fire quickly spread from the impact point to Toji. His dying screams rang throughout the camp. Naruto turned towards his 5 horrified comrades. The fire in the background making him look like the devil himself. The next morning Kakashi awoke with a yawn and rubbed his eye. After Naruto's brutal execution display, he went right to his tent. Once inside, he pondered what exactly happened to the blonde. Shishio and his crew were a violent bunch, but in their bingo books they never resorted to that kind of torture, and fell asleep wondering what exactly made his student this way. Getting out of his tent, he looked around the camp and saw that everyone was doing something. Yamato was growing wood for a fire, and Yugo was sharpening her katana. But his 2 students looked absolutely horrible. Sasuke didn't show it, but Sakura looked like she didn't sleep at all last night. But the person of his pondering last night was nowhere to be seen. Good morning everyone, have any of you seen Naruto? Kakashi asked. He's still burning the bodies, Yamato started out. The kid has been at it all night. Yugo finished for him, after moving the stone one more time down her katana. The perverted Junin only nodded and went to cook his rations. Breakfast, if you could call it that, was quiet. No one talked, they just ate. Well, more like the two genin ate while the three scarfed down their meal when a distraction made them turn away from each other. 15 minutes later, they then put away their camping supplies and went to find Naruto. They arrived to see several bonfires with bodies in them. The smell burning flesh was overwhelming, which made Sakura throw up again. They continued walking, trying to ignore the burning piles until they found Naruto by the last funeral pyre, tossing the last body into the flames. "Good morning, Naruto." Kakashi greeted his student. The blonde just slowly turned his head to Kakashi. "What exactly is so good about it?" he asked monotonously. The former Anbu captain only shrugged. "You're not a morning person, are you? What was your first clue? Anyways, we have to get moving," Yamato said, drawing the genin's attention to him. "I'll be with you in a few minutes. I gotta use that tree over there," he replied, pointing his thumb at it. The men just nodded before walking away, while the older woman just sighed, before dragging the younger one away so she wouldn't make a fool of herself. Naruto kept his promise by catching up with them a few minutes later. And thankfully there were no interruptions from him until 30 minutes later near a cliffside. "Why did you stop us, Naruto?" Yamato asked, a little annoyed that their progress was halted. "We are nearing another camp and I have a plan," the blonde said and pulled out a map of the area. "This is my plan. From what I can tell, this camp is made up of either mercenaries and bandits, with the light chance of there being a shinobi or two. From my estimate, there are about 100 to 300 of them. The camp we are approaching is here, closest to the ocean. We will stand on the top of the cliffside. We can rain down jutsu on the enemies, but I have a jutsu that can take them out faster. But before we do this, who here knows any fire jutsus?" He saw Yugo, Kakashi, and Sasuke raise their hands. "Good. Now I want you to use whatever fire jutsu you want after I do my jutsu. Now are there any questions?" he asked the small group. "Yay, why do I have to listen to you?" Sasuke said. Sakura was about to agree with him, but then she remembered what Naruto did last night and decided to keep quiet. "Listen, Uchiha, I don't have time for your bullshit. Just for once in your life, cooperate with me," Naruto said, getting a nod from the seniors of the group, who were actually seeing the success in this plan. Sasuke definitely wasn't happy hearing that from some poser samurai, but reluctantly followed his orders. For now. 30 minutes later they reached the cliff face overlooking the camp. "Alright, here we go," Naruto announced to the group before going through several hand seals, water style, black rain jutsu. He whispered as black clouds formed within the clouds, and by the ocean. The clouds then began pouring black rain on the camp. "Now," Naruto ordered. The three performed the required hand seals, and each put an enormous amount chakra into them. "Fire style. Fireball jutsu," Sasuke shouted, shooting the familiar fireball from his mouth. "Fire style. Dragon flame jutsu," Kakashi yelled, as the familiar dragon made completely out of fire formed outside his masked mouth, and was launched at the camp. "Fire style. Dragon flame jutsu," Yugo called out, raising part of her mask to launch a smaller-sized dragon at a different part of the camp. The fire jutsus decimated the camp from the safety of the cliff, setting the camp aflame. The men screamed seconds before they were engulfed in flames. Tents were blown up, bodies exploded, sending body parts everywhere. In a matter of minutes, all that was left of the camp was a giant firestorm. Nobody survived. The team then quickly moved onto the main town of Wave, which would most likely contain Gato. But first they had to reunite with Kurenai and her team. They figured that they can sneak through the forest on the outer edges of the town, and make their way towards Tazuna's house, which was 15 miles north of the village, and set out immediately. Kakashi repressed a forlorn scowl at the state of the town. It took them 5 hours to finally reach the town. Now they've been leaping from rooftop to rooftop for several minutes going towards Tazuna's house with the help of Pakun, Kakashi's personal summon. Pakun, who was currently leading both of them to where he smelled Kurenai, gave him a backwards glance as well, but just as quickly as it was there, it was gone, replaced with slightly widened eyes and a vacant gaze. Suddenly, Pakun was going much faster than he had been. "Kakashi, I'm picking up more scents from where I initially smelled Kurenai. A lot more. We should probably hurry. Kakashi's brow furrowed slightly. The report said Kurenai and her team were injured. Then there was the possibility that they wouldn't be able to defend themselves from even the worst of mercenaries. They really didn't have to waste. They increased their speed. However, Sakura was falling behind, so Yugo fell behind as well to protect her. After a few more minutes of leaping from roof to roof, Pakun finally came to a stop. He didn't even need to point out to everyone where Kurenai was. There were a clump of 50 mercenaries, surrounding a ramshackle house supported by stilts over water. It wasn't large, nor was it small, but it certainly looked to be in disrepair. The mercenaries were apparently doing everything they could to bash in the front door of the house, and were succeeding. Before he could pull out a kunai, Naruto put his hand on his wakizashi, unsheathed it with his thumb, and disappeared. A second later he was at the front door and sheathed it with his thumb. Then the bodies sprayed out blood and either fell to the deck or into the water, the blood and bodies covering the footprints embedded in the floorboards. The blonde caught his breath, and simply knocked on the door. After a few more knocks the door was opened by Kurenai, and behind her was a relieved old man. "Tsunami. The reinforcements are here." The man had turned and yelled over his shoulder, and allowed the leaf ninjas into his house, not noticing the dead men on his porch. "I'm glad you're here. Come, we need your assistance," Kurenai said with urgency in her voice. Kurenai her again to a back room. They both made her way down a hall and to a small door, which she slid open. Those who were inexperienced seeing wounds were horrified. Shino laid in one of the beds in the room. His right leg was in a splint, and his face was covered in bandages with some blood seeping through. Kiba laid in the other bed right next to him. He had his right arm in a sling, but Akamaru was unharmed. And Hinata had some wrappings on her hands, along with some cuts and bruises. They also took a good look at Kurenai, and noticed that her exposed arm was covered in bandages and in a sling. And she, like Hinata, also had some cuts and bruises. "Took you long enough," Kiba said to them. Naruto immediately told them to relax so he could work on them. He walked over to his fellow genin, and performed the diagnosis jutsu on them. "So what's the damage?" Kurenai asked, clearly worried for her students. "It looks a lot worse than it is, but their wounds are pretty bad." Kiba has 3 broken ribs that are dangerously close to his left lung. His right arm is broken in 4 places, and has some very nasty bruises. Shino is recovering thanks to the bugs in him. However, his right leg is broken in 2 places while the other one has a nasty case of shin shock, and his face will have scars if not treated properly. "What about Hinata?" the exotic Junin asked. "She'll recover in a few hours after I'm finished with her. The only thing she is suffering from is 2 sprained wrists and exhaustion. However, I'm worried about that arm of yours. Mind if I take a look?" Nodding, Kurenai allowed him to take a look at her arm. "It seems that you have some nerve damage. I'll have to operate immediately if you want to have full use of it again." He told her the grim news. Naruto then took out his scroll, opened it, and in a small cloud of smoke there were various medical supplies. "Kakashi, Yugo, and Yamato. I will need 2 of you to go through town and kill any enemies in town. And 1 of you to guard the house, because I know Haruno isn't strong enough to fight off anyone. The Uchiha can defend off a few at a time and actually kill someone, but he doesn't have the stamina to take on 50 or more well-trained mercenaries or bandits. I would like to accompany you myself, but it appears I'm the only one with any medical experience out of all of us." Naruto told them before ushering them out of the room to patch up Team 8. And sure enough, a few hours later Naruto finally came out of the room wiping the blood off a scalpel, and saw that everyone was in the living room. "So how are they?" Yugo asked. "Answer me first, did you do the deed?" the blonde teenager asked. "Yes, Kakashi-senpai and myself eliminated every bandit and mercenary in the village." Yamato answered him. "Now please answer the question Yugo-chan asked." "They will recover. They'll have to take it easy though." Naruto responded calmly. "What do you mean by that?" Kakashi asked. "Well, I had to operate on Kurenai first. Like I said, she had some nerve damage, and I had to reattach them. She'll be able to use the arm in 2 weeks. Hinata's wrists were very easy to fix. All she needs is some bed rest and she'll be able to be on active duty again. However, for Shino I had to use a lot of healing chakra to fix up his legs and a little on his face, but with the bugs in him he'll be ready at the end of the week. But Kiba will be out for an undetermined amount of time. I fixed his ribs but they are still very brittle." I just finished fixing his arm, but it'll take an experienced medic nin to completely heal it completely. I'm going to have a clone to keep an eye on him in case his condition worsens. Naruto told them the results of his healing powers. Naruto-san, have you worked in the hospital? Yamato asked. Nope. Really? Because with a little more training you could become as good as Tsunade. The wood user remarked, impressed at Naruto's healing skills at this age. I'm more of a fighter than a healer, plus I would never become as good as Tsunade. Naruto admitted, thinking he should expand his medical training a bit after this mission was done and over with. Has Kurenai told you anything about the mission so far? Kakashi asked. Yes, she said she used one of her nastier genjutsus on Zabuza, and if I'm correct his partner used Senbon to put him in a death-like state so he'll be out for 2 weeks at the most. Now if you'll excuse me, I am very tired. He told them, going back upstairs, leaving behind a baffled group wondering just who the hell he actually was. A few days later we find Kakashi, Kurenai, Sasuke, Sakura, Hinata, and Naruto in the forest around 5 in the morning. Sensei, what are we doing here? Sakura asked, clearly annoyed at being woken up this early. Today, we start training, Kakashi announced. I assume you all know what chakra is, right? When the 4 genin nodded, Kakashi sighed in relief knowing each second counted on this mission. I'm gonna teach you how to harness it correctly. But we can already use jutsu, Sasuke retorted. Nope, said Kakashi, looking up a tree. You guys aren't using it correctly. Seeing their confused looks, he continued. To release chakra means to harness spiritual and physical energy in your body and mix them within you. Based on what jutsu you use, the type and amount of chakra that is released will be different. But you guys aren't using your chakra effectively. Even if you're able to release a high amount of chakra, it isn't worth spit if you can't control it properly. Any jutsu you use will be weakened or won't work at all. So basically, you'll be screwed in a fight because of wasting energy. So what do you want us to do? Sakura asked, slightly intrigued now. You guys are gonna learn how to control your chakra by climbing trees. Kurenai told them. How will tree climbing help us? Sakura asked again, thinking that the Junin was sick in the head because of Naruto's improper healing. Kakashi only smiled. You'll be doing it without using your hands. Putting his hands in the tiger seal, a faint bit of dust lifted from his feet. Kakashi then turned to his tree and walked straight up it. You gather chakra in the soles of your feet and climb. The main purpose of this exercise is to teach you chakra control. Bringing out the right amount to the right area. This is essential when using jutsu. Hell, even a skilled ninja has trouble with this exercise. The amount of chakra needed for tree climbing is small, but it must be exact. They say that the soles of the feet are extremely difficult to gather chakra at. So basically, if you master this, then you can master any jutsu, in theory, that is. The second purpose is to give you stamina needed for chakra control. Depending on the jutsu, controlling your chakra can be difficult as well. And a shinobi will usually be doing this while constantly moving. These types of situations can be very stressful on you and your chakra control. That's why you'll be climbing trees. Kakashi, Hinata and I are going to skip out on this one. Naruto said. And why would that be? We already know how to do it. Really? Care to prove it? Kakashi asked. Kakashi, I walked on freaking water when we fought, and with Hinata being from the Hyuga clan, she's supposed to know this by the time she entered the academy. The blonde used his logic of clan requirements, and his common sense to force Kakashi into seeing he was right. Kurenai's acknowledgement further proved he was correct in skipping this exercise. Alright, then you two go off and do your own training, but on the condition that Kurenai will go with you. Kakashi told them, having his perverted mind prevent any distractions. After placing himself a few miles from the 3, Naruto lead both Hinata and Kurenai into a clearing by a stream. He knew why Kakashi asked Kurenai to come with them, however it really didn't matter much since he needed to help Hinata, and get some help from Kurenai to do it. Alright, it's time for your training, but I have to find out a few things. Naruto said, pulling out 2 blank pieces of paper. Naruto, where did you get those chakra cards? Kurenai exclaimed, seeing those pieces of paper. Chakra cards? Hinata asked, quite obviously confused. Hinata, chakra cards are made from trees that were fed and nurtured by chakra for a long time. But these are used when you become a Junin, so Naruto, why do you have them? I paid off a Junin for them. Naruto lied, but in reality he swiped them from one that gave him a nasty look. Now Hinata, the training I'm going to put you through will help you. Now I want you to channel chakra into the paper so I can find out your elemental alignment. Now before you ask an elemental alignment, it's the element that you are intoned to. For example, throughout the Shinobi Nation people have been aligned with their country's name. Like water country they mainly have water users, fire country has fire users, and so on. Naruto paused so Hinata could take all this information in. If you're lightning natured the paper crumbles, wind cut it in half, fire burns it, water gets it wet, and earth turns it to dust. There are also secondary elements. Take the Shodem Hokage for example. The Shodem combined his water and earth elements to create the wood element, thus making it a bloodline. There are also other people who have said bloodlines. Really? Mind telling us, Naruto? Kurenai asked. Not really. During my travels I've met people who had the ice element, magma element, boil element, hell I even met a guy with the metal element. But we're getting off topic. Hinata, I want you to channel the chakra into the card. Hinata did what she was told, and it became wet. Raising an eyebrow the blonde took it from her to see if his eyes weren't failing him, but with a confirmation from the fox and the feel of water he was sure he wasn't being fooled. That's a surprise. This is the first time I've seen a water element in fire country. Kurenai, do you know your element? Yes, it's fire. But I'm curious, what is yours? The exotic Junin asked, clearly curious about the mysterious genin. What I'm going to show you will be a secret between us. No one will know about this, got it? Naruto told them. Seeing them nod he held up his card and it split into 4 separate pieces, caught on fire, got wet, crumpled up, and turned to dust in that respective order. Seeing their shocked looks Naruto explained, as you just saw I'm intoned with all 5 elements. But it's not natural. I went through a forbidden jutsu so I can gain the abilities, and no, the jutsu doesn't exist anymore, so don't try to ask me about it. Now onto your training. Hinata, do you know water walking? 2 weeks later. For nearly 2 weeks Naruto trained both Hinata and Kurenai, though if he was honest with himself it was under her in the art of genjutsu. He taught Hinata water walking until it was second nature to her along with some simple water jutsus. Kurenai taught her the basics of genjutsu, and got her to open up and get closer to Naruto. At first it was difficult because Hinata kept saying it was against the Hyuga clan code to learn anything other than the noble or of the gentle fist. Naruto bluntly told her that was a complete load of crap, and proceeded to prove it by sparring with her using nothing but 2 jutsus. He sneaked away, used the shadow clone jutsu to distract her, and then used earth style, headhunter jutsu to pull her underground, and held his katana to her forehead. Needless to say she cooperated fully. While he was training her he learned from Kurenai about the unfortunate incident 10 years ago. And soon after that he practically forced his logic into the young heiresse's head that it wasn't her fault. Yay, everything was going well, until that night. As everyone sat at the dinner table, they chatted about random things. The weather, training, dreams, and other thing you talk about during dinner. But when Inari came downstairs, many could tell that all hell was about to break loose. Why? The little boy asked, his teary eyes hidden by his bucket hat. Naruto sighed. What is this kid, a parrot? Sasuke, who was too much of a jackass to keep his thoughts to himself, spoke up. What now, come to annoy us again? He snorted. Inari snapped. Why are you doing this? Why are you training to fight someone like Gato? You're just going to get yourselves killed. No one can beat him, least of all you people. Naruto, who had listened to Inari's emo babble for the past 2 weeks, decided enough was enough. Kid, you're underestimating our abilities. Gato is nothing but a fat midget hiding behind his money and his thugs. We are here to take the bastard out, so let us do our job, so you can get on with your life. Inari glared at Naruto. What do you know? You've probably lived your entire life in comfort, never having to worry about anything. You know nothing about pain and suffering. Naruto's fist smashed into the table, reducing his portion of it into dust. You little punk, you think we don't know about suffering? Naruto's icy voice was directed towards the youngest person at the table, and started going through hand seals. Well, if you want to see suffering I will gladly show you. He continued going through a few hand seals and called out, Naruto's secret art, flashback jutsu. A huge holographic image appeared in front of Inari's face, and started showing Naruto's memories. Naruto's flashback. It was night and an 8-year-old Naruto was sleeping peacefully. until an explosion shook the hideout, and the sounds of screaming woke everybody up. He was greeted with the sight of tens of thousands of men outside of their hideout. "Lord Shishio, what's going on?" Naruto asked. "All the ninja villages teamed up for the first time in history just to take us down, what an honor." Shishio said sarcastically, "Naruto, prepare yourself. This battle will be the greatest highlight of your life." He told him. The intruders reached the entrance where they met Anji, Seta, Naruto, and Usui. Anji took his taijutsu stance and started bashing the intruders into bloody chunks. One unfortunate stone ninja met his end by his fist blowing a clean hole through his stomach, while another one tried attacking him from behind, only to find his torso separated from his waist from his lightning-fast kick. Seta gave his opponents his famous false smile before simply disappearing. His opponents, who consisted about 100 sand shinobi, paused to see where he was. That brief second ended up costing them their lives before their various body parts fell to the ground in a bloody heap. "Usui, where the hell is Henya?" Naruto asked, slicing diagonally upwards, cutting a star nin's face in two. "He's collecting his dynamite," Usui replied, using his tortoise shell to bash a stone nin's skull in, and used his short spear to pierce a cloud nin's chest. Suddenly they heard a voice shout out, "Fire style, Great Dragon Flame Jutsu." A raging ball of fire the shape of a great dragon's head flew towards the thoroughly panicking ninja. Just as it neared them, there was another shout. "Wind style, Great Breakthrough." The voice continued as a great gust of wind came out of nowhere. The wind was faster than fire. The wind jutsu met the fireball just as it descended upon the doomed ninja's position. For just a split second, it seemed as though the wind jutsu would completely dissipate the fire jutsu. The fireball seemed to lose all its power as the wind blades embedded into it. And then everything caught fire. It was as if a river of fire from hell itself had manifested on earth. The fire from the fireball simply exploded outwards, engulfing and feeding off the air, while at the same time maintaining its momentum. The fire seemed to flow on the current of air that the wind had created, and in mere moments, what had once been a huge ball of fire, was now a flowing river of incineration. They didn't even have time to scream. The ninja's position had been huddled together. The river of fire slowed when it hit the wall of flesh. But only slightly. Everyone saw the searing of flesh, the evaporation of bodily liquids, and it was literally like an oven with the heat of the flames. They could also hear a few of the horrified screams of the dying. And then, the fire dissipated. Piles of ash, bodies half consumed with nothing but scorch. The rest of the body was simply a pile of cinders. It just wasn't a pretty sight. Everyone turned to see Henya. The man was smirking and asked, "Am I late for the party?" "You Tsunava of a bitch, get in the air and bomb the hell out of everyone." Naruto cheered. Henya unfolded his cloak, showing off his emaciated body, and took off into the air using his magnificent use of his wind affinity. They cheered as he dropped his bombs on the enemy for a few minutes until he was assaulted by the Bat clan of Lightning Country. That was when he took out his katars and started slashing them out of the sky instead of dropping bombs, leaving the others to hack at the enemy. Naruto formed a whip made of fire in his left hand, swung it, and took out 3 stone chunin, while he used his katana to fend off the others. What he didn't notice that a cloud anbu snuck up behind him, and put his katana through his collarbone. Crying out in pain, he fell to the ground. The anbu was about to finish the job when he found himself cut vertically in half. "You alright, kid?" "Yes, I'm alright," Henya said. "N.S.A." Naruto looked on in horror to see that Henya was missing his left eye, had bite marks and lacerations all over his frail body. "We're retreating into the hideout," he said, coughing up some blood. "Alright, let's head inside and let Yumi Ne-chan fix you up." Naruto said, only for Henya to drop his katars in his hands. "No, you retreat. Grow strong, Naruto," Henya said, and then took flight. He went high into the sky, lit his remaining dynamite, fell towards earth, and went out with a bang. Hundreds of Shishio's men ran outside to hold off the enemy. It took Naruto 15 minutes to get to Shishio's office and tell him the grim news. However, they were interrupted when one of their shinobi rushed into the room. "Lord Shishio, the enemy has infiltrated the base. We lost Anji, Cho, and Saizuchi. And worst of all, over half of our men betrayed us." "What?" "Naruto, come with me. We'll go all out and kill every one of them," Shishio told the boy. Naruto nodded and put on his newly acquired katars. It took them a few minutes to reach the battle where the rope bridge was, and ran over to join the fight. Fuji had foregone his armor, and was hacking away his foes with his Zanbato grinning like a madman. Seto was using one step below Shukuchi, reduced earth, to take out his enemies. Hoji was sniping off his enemies with kunai and shuriken. Yumi was trying to heal Usui. Kamatari was cutting down foes with his scythe, and a wombo was swatting them all over the place. Naruto saw some rain and cloud ninjas sneak past everyone and tried to attack Yumi. Usui saw this and pushed her out of the way, taking the hit in the heart, and killed the two before dying with a smile on his face. Then he and Shishio ran into the middle of the fight. Naruto swung his right katar at a man's head, reveling in the arterial spray and the meaty thunk of the man's head hitting the floor. He spun around and sliced another mon's stomach open. Naruto then stabbed a cloud nin in the throat, flipped over his head and stabbed a snow nin in the back of the head. Shishio smirked when he saw Naruto fight, and started using his blade to cause some carnage. He appeared in front of a group of men trying to flee, taking all four of their heads off at once. He then turned and impaled a man that had tried to sneak up on him. He used some friction on his blade, catching it on fire. He jammed his blade deep into a mist nin's stomach, catching him on fire, and threw him into a group of rain nins, catching them on fire. He turned his head and saw a waterfall nin charging him from the corner of his eye. He ran at the man, dragging his sword along the ground, creating sparks and igniting his blade again. When he neared the man, he swung his sword upwards, splitting him from his crotch to his head. Naruto heard a cry of pain and saw Fuji get pierced by a stalagmite, badly injured by a wind jutsu, and punched hard enough to hear his ribs break. The giant fell into the stalagmite-filled pit, and died on impact. He saw the men who did it: a stone Junin with a terrible burn scar on the right side of his face, a sand Junin with the entire right side of his face covered by a white cloth and two red striped tattoos on the left side of his face, and a huge snow Junin with a robotic arm. While he was distracted, he was hit by a piece of shrapnel by earth jutsu, and it cut horizontally across his left cheek. Then a stone Anbu launched a kunai with an exploding tag ready to hit him, until a wombo leapt in front of the attack. The kunai pierced his fat stomach, and he lost it after the note detonated. The blonde got a good look at the man. He was built like a bear, had an eye patch on his left eye, and a scar going across his chin. Everyone retreat into the chamber. Shishio ordered, "Go on ahead, I'll buy you some time." Kamatari said, readying his scythe, while a good handful of the men still loyal to them stayed by the crossdresser. Sadly nodding, they left them to their fate. Half an hour later, the last four members of the 10 Swords and a handful of soldiers heard them bash on the steel doors. They were ready for their last stand. However, the remaining 4 members knew one of them was too young to die, so like a telepathic link they decided for him to live. Naruto. Shishio suddenly said. "Yes, Lord Shishio?" Naruto asked. "Are you ready to fight?" "Yes, it was an honor to die with you." "It was an honor to fight with you, my student, but it's not your time to die." Shishio said, confusing Naruto. "What do you mean by that?" Naruto asked. "Farewell, my son," was all Shishio said before Naruto fell through the floor. It was the last thing he would see, the remorseful looks on their faces, and the sound of the steel doors busting down. After an unknown amount of time, Naruto crawled out of the darkness, and into the room where he was ready to die. But the battle was already over and the results were devastating. The room where Shishio's last stand, and the room where he first met the members of the 10 Swords was completely destroyed. The white marble tiles were stained with blood, the beautiful paintings, marble, stone, and jade statues were either destroyed or looted. He went through the ruined base and saw the many bodies of the invaders, soldiers loyal to Shishio and his family. Yumi looked like she was brutally raped before they killed her. Seta's body was cut into pieces. Hoji was cut in half. Kamatari's body had several deep stab and slash marks. Fuji's body was still in the stalagmite-filled pit that pierced his vital areas. Usui still had the stab mark in his heart area, a wombo's stomach, and was completely hollowed out. Anji's body had over 50 known weapons stuck in him. Cho was mutilated. Saizuchi was torn limb from limb. Henya's remains were all over the place. And Shishio looked like he was brutally tortured and executed. Their heads were severed from their bodies, and their weapons were taken from their corpses. But he had no time to grieve. Enemy shinobi were still in the area, but as much as he wanted to kill them he had to leave. Days later Naruto found himself in a nearby village, and the heads of his family on wooden platters behind a bamboo cage. The image would be forever burnt into his mind, seeing their remorseful looks, and not ones of peace. Later that night the blonde was staring into his campfire. He got up and stuck his right hand into the fire. With this oath of pain I will avenge all of you. Months later Inari saw Naruto in a city. Shanghai, the demon city to be exact. The poor boy then saw the horrors of the demon city. They saw him getting mugged of all the money he had in katars, beaten, tortured, several attempted murders, and several failed hangings. He saw his body ravaged with disease, and saw him eating corpses just to survive, and they finally saw him lying on the ground next to several skeletons and other rotting corpses. His body, skin and bones in only a few months after arriving in the horrid city. The memory turned black for a few seconds, and then the memory showed a healthier Naruto finding the people who tortured him, robbed him of his katars, and tried to kill him. The memory showed him finding them, taking them into alleyways, buildings, or in public with hundreds of witnesses, and literally ripped them apart. But what made the 8-year-old cry was seeing Naruto's face. One of peace and innocence when he was his age, change into that a heartless, cold-blooded killer. Then the memory went black. Flashback ends. Naruto ended his jutsu to see Inari was openly shedding tears. He then undid a very minor genjutsu on his face so everyone could see the scar on his left cheek, and removed part of his right glove to show Inari a charred black hand, which made him recoil in horror. Inari, if there is one lesson you need to learn is that no matter how bad you have it, someone always has it worse. Now if I hear how cry about how crappy your life is again, I'll rip out your spine and use it as a whip to slay any more enemies I will come across. The angry blonde then got out of his seat and headed towards the door, but before he left he stopped by Inari's chair and whispered, "And if you tell anyone what you saw, you'll wish you were dead." With that said, Naruto walked out the door and into the night. That's all for now. If you enjoy then please like, share and do comments.